Still atop their perch, the St. Louis Cardinals, but the Milwaukee Brewers looking to make a difference today, take another leap in the standings. It's the Cardinals, it's the Brewers, wrapping up this homestand on FSN North. Well, hello there once again, everybody. Darren Sutton, glad to have you back at Miller Park. We've got a big day for you today. Moose Haas will join us and talk about those special 80s Brewers teams. We'll be joined by Tommy Lasorda, the Dodger legend. He'll talk about prostate cancer research. But we've got another treat today, and let's bring in Assistant General Manager Gord Ash, who's my partner today in absentia for Bill Schroeder, who is joining his son Billy Schroeder for his graduation. Gord, first of all, it's a treat to have you here. And one of the reasons that we can really lean on you is to talk about the anatomy of a trade. When you look at today's starting pitcher, Dave Bush, you realize there were other names, Arroyo and Williams, that were brought up along the way. Why this trio coming to Milwaukee?
Well, we're still in a position here with the Brewers where we're trying to create depth. And you look at this deal, 3 players for one. Certainly following even from the Arizona deal with Overbay coming in that deal. Richie Sexton's turned into a lot of valuable parts for this club.
And you see Dave Bush, Zach Jackson now in the rotation, Gabe Gross, Brady Clark trying to get that shoulder healthy. He, too, is in the starting lineup today. Jeff Suppan has been a Brewer killer throughout his career. He is 11-2 against Milwaukee. He's certainly always been a pedestrian starting pitcher, but you can't overlook how dependable he has been for every team for whom he has pitched.
Great here at Miller Park and great against the Brewers, so it's going to be a tough game for us today.
All right, Suppan against Bush, and there you see what he has done. He is a guy that has filled in that number 5 spot for the St. Louis Cardinals in their rotation. Well, these fans have been having fun all weekend long in Miller Park. There's been a little bit of rivalry here, but with the Cardinals and the Brewers, it's a friendly rivalry. Skating, Superman, and buddies trying to make things work out. We'll wrap up this rockin' series right after this. Well, certainly glad you're with us on a beautiful day here at Miller Park. We were having a little fun talking about Corey Hart last night and tying him in with the musician Corey Hart. You could certainly wear your sunglasses at daytime here and the sun peeking out. Want to remind all of you, by the way, and we have some special guests with regard to this. In today's game, we're participating in the Home Run Challenge, where every home run hit raises $17,000 for prostate cancer research. You can make a pledge by calling 1-800-798-CURE or 2873. So far, 40 home runs hit for more than $500,000 raised towards prostate cancer research. Darren and Gord and Craig Kashan will be joining us here in just a little bit. Future Hall of Famer Tony La Russa, the skipper for these St. Louis Cardinals. And let's take a look at Tony's starting lineup, brought to you by GMC. At the top, David Eckstein. He's had a huge series. John Rodriguez gets work today. Scott Rowland, Jim Edmonds, and Juan Encarnacion. Chris Duncan, Yadier Molina, and Hector Luna. Jeff Suppan rounding it out 1 through 9. We talked about him in the open. On the mound for the Milwaukee Brewers is Dave Bush. He is making his 14th start of the year, a record of 4-5, an ERA of 4.54. And as we take a look at our Dodge scouting report, Gord, what can you tell us about Dave Bush?
Well, Dave certainly likes to pitch here at Miller Park. He's 4-1 with a 2.2 earned run average. He feels comfortable here. It's Miller Park, as we know, not really a pitcher's ballpark. It plays rather neutral, but he's done a great job here at home. He's also someone that throws a lot of strikes, and that sometimes can work against him, especially in the early going of the game, because the hitters know that and they'll be swinging aggressively.
Defense going to work behind Bush, brought to you by Rico. Gabe Gross in center field in place of Brady Clark. That shoulder bothering him from a throw last night, aggravated it maybe a little bit more when rolling into a double play. Well, we're glad you're with us. We are underway, and strike one to the pesky David Eckstein. There's Gabe in center field, flanked by Lee and Jenkins, as always in the outfield. To the right side, no surprise. David Eckstein, a base hit, his series now. 6 hits in 10 at-bats. He's just a nightmare because he never, ever seems to overswing or, Gord, come out of that plate discipline.
No, he doesn't. And coming into this series, he was on a bit of a cold streak for him. But clearly here in Miller Park, he's and against the Brewers, he uses the whole field. He's a great contact hitter. He's a perfect leadoff hitter. He doesn't have the dominating speed that you might like to see, but a guy that always gets on base and really sets the table for the rest of these Cardinal hitters.
So Eckstein with a single. By the way, that's hit number 82 for David. He leads the National League. Is he a threat to go? Well, as we were talking about, just 4 stolen bases. He's been thrown out 3 times, and As Rodriguez takes ball one, it's interesting how much you can actually compare, although they're from totally different worlds. The way the game is played by Brady Clark and David Eckstein, pretty darn comparable.
It is. They're overachievers. They're guys that make the most out of what they have and are aggressive players.
Just enough guys. That's what they nicknamed David Eckstein. Just enough.
There's early in his career so much talk about his ability to get the ball across the field to first base from shortstop, but I don't think many people talk about that much anymore.
That's what he has to do. Here's John Rodriguez. 1-1 the count on Rodriguez. After spending 8 years in the minor leagues, Rodriguez finally got a chance to make his major league debut, and he did it last year against the Brewers. And as a matter of fact, his first big league home run coming against the injured Brewers ace Ben Sheets.
He's a very good fastball hitter.
So you throw him a little bit of a wrinkle in it there. That looks like a cut fastball. We're seeing a little bit more of that from David as the starts have come along. A few more cutters.
Yeah, it's a good pitch for him, and I think he's understanding that he needs to mix his pitches because he was relying so much on his fastball early in the count, and especially early in the game, that it was working against him. And he's those pitchers and those players that can make adjustments from game to game are the ones that have long-term success.
In a way, isn't that what happened in his start against St. Louis?
It sure was. And you know, back at the opening series in St. Louis, the Cardinal hitters almost appeared like they knew what was coming. They were swinging early in the count and getting the fastballs before Dave had a chance to get to his breaking stuff.
2-2 the count on John Rodriguez. Eckstein takes off, swung on and missed on a curveball, throw down, not in time. That is a stolen base for David Eckstein and a strikeout of John Rodriguez.
Well, there's the throw from Moeller. Not a bad throw at all, but a little slow to the plate for David there in that situation. And you know, catcher can only do so much.
And it makes a difference there. That pitch, as Gord is talking about, folks, a curveball, which will slow the entire process down.
You know, I do have to defend the catchers in Bill's absence.
Thank you. That's very nice. This is, I thought, my day that I would be able just to bury catchers, but I guess not. Well, we can't. We had a little bit of a joke going on the other night as Scott Rowland, who is no joke to opposing pitchers, that we were talking about catchers as managers, catchers as coaches, catchers as announcers, and the joke in the truck was, soon there will be a catcher as president of the United States. And Bill didn't dispute that.
No, I think it's quite possible because, of course, we all know that catchers are the ones that completely control this game anyways.
Scott Rowland last night, a big home run, but the Brewers managed to get by it. What a run he's having. And he hasn't been swinging for the long ball that much, what we have seen with Scott Rowland. And that's what's netted him that 341 average.
And he's red hot coming in here, hitting over 400 in the last 7 games, and a guy that really likes the ball down in the zone. And hopefully David and Chad can react to that and pitch him accordingly.
The 1-1 pitch to Rowland misses in. 2 balls and 1 strike the count. Whether you're a general manager, whether you're a fan, whether you're a broadcaster, this guy plays the game right, and he's fun to watch.
He does, and you know, St. Louis has really done well in making acquisitions and helping their ball club, and this was a very, very big one for them. And they missed him last year when he was out. They missed him a little bit earlier this year when he was out a little bit. So, very, very integral part to their lineup and to their success.
You can see Scott Rowland trying to keep his weight on the back leg, goes up on that toe for a timing mechanism. Didn't matter. Slow curveball, 2-2 the count, and here we are. He's showing him that curveball a little bit earlier.
That's what he needs to do, and you're probably going to see him here elevate in the strike zone, I would think, to try and maximize the weakness, exploit the weaknesses that Scott has. He doesn't have many, and he can adjust. In fact, last night he adjusted in an at-bat when we tried to exploit that area.
Up on that toe. There you go. Chad Moeller wants it high, as Gord was saying, high and tight. That's a good 2-strike pitch. It's 3-2.
Well, he's hitting almost 400 since the 1st of May, so he's been red hot. So you need to move the hitter's feet. You can't let him get settled in the strike zone. I think the first 2 games of the series, St. Louis has hit 3 Brewer batters, and not that you play a retaliatory game at all. Ned doesn't believe in that, but you do have to take charge of the strike zone.
But I do, Gord. 3-2 the count, 1 out. Runner in scoring position.
Well, I'm sure they can't wait to hear that when you get to fantasy camp.
It didn't matter. I mean, I got hit every time. Bill Schroeder tossed that out. I was drilled several times in the same game. On 3-2. The key, as that one is popped up to the right side, and let's see if he can turn it into an out. Prince can't get there. But the key, when you come up and in, you better throw a strike, or at least somewhere near the strike zone, because otherwise then you walk it.
Absolutely, and that wouldn't be the worst thing that could happen with first base open. But Jim Edmonds, he's also red hot. You know, this Cardinal lineup, there are no easy touches in the lineup at all. So you have to take advantage of each situation that presents itself. And when you have Scott Rowland in a situation where you can get an out, you better take advantage of it.
You saw Prince got a little bit gun shy up close to that railing and near those stands. 3-2 the count. They're playing him to pull on the infield, and it's low ball 4. So they did lose him. You know, we saw Prince with that effort. Let's talk about the defense. I know you guys have, as you've watched him grow, really worked on it. Are you surprised at how well he has performed defensively, specifically with range at first base?
He's been a very, very aggressive first baseman. He's thrown the ball well. One of our concerns coming in was how well he would react to that, and he's certainly been better than we anticipated in that regard. There's still some things to work on, as there is with any young player, and that play previously over by the rail is one of those plays that's tough to practice, and you can coaches can simulate a lot of things, but baseball is one game that you do not practice at game speed, and it makes it difficult for players to gain the experience they need to complete plays like we just saw.
0-1 to count on Jim Edmonds. And this is what Gord's talking about. I mean, you can't practice a play like this for Prince Fielder prior to the game.
You know, it's your home field, and you're a little more comfortable in your home field than you may be in some of the road parks where you're only playing brief 2 or 3 game series. But still, it's a tough play. There's a lot going on over in that area, the camera booth and the security personnel on the field and the advertising boards and so on. So there's a lot to negotiate.
A little bit of late movement puts that one over the inside corner. 1-2 the count on Jimmy Edmonds, hitting .245, 6 home runs, 33 RBIs. 35-year-old, 8 times he has won a Gold Glove.
And I don't think this is a factor, but you do have the roof in play as we did last night. Today we're open, a little bit different view for you as well, and that sometimes takes some getting used to.
Yeah, there's no doubt when you think about that, as the count evens up at 2-2. We're getting a little bit later in the year, even though it is a cloudy, somewhat overcast day. It's a very high and challenging sky. That's what Ned always brings up, and I'm sure you guys bring that in the boardrooms as well. Experience. You just can't beat experience for every single player down there. Breaking ball lifted into left center field. Toward the gap it goes. It's down. All the way to the wall. They're racing around the bases. Eckstein being chased by Scott Rowland. The relay to the plate off the mark. A double and 2 RBIs for Jim Edmonds as he split the gap in left center field.
Well, there's a ball down in the strike zone where Edmonds likes it, and he's a professional hitter. He's done this a long time, and Dave will have to make adjustments as he faces these hitters in the next go-around in the order.
He almost looked like, as you can see Eckstein get that great jump, he almost looked like he was ready for an off-speed pitch.
The Cardinals do a great job of preparation, and probably second to none in the big leagues. Tony La Russa, known as that kind of manager. He has a very hard-working staff. They spend a lot of time with video, a lot of time with numbers, and they use the preparation to their advantage.
Spent a lot of time with spray charts as well. 1-0 the count on Juan Encarnacion. Swing and a miss. Good dive down and in. 1-1 the count. Now when you have a guy like Encarnacion, it's easy to say that maybe there's a character issue. We've always had to talk about that with Reggie Sanders, but sometimes a player like Encarnacion, 5th team in 6 years, just gets on the move, and whether it's for salary or production, he continues to move.
Well, there's something to that. You see a lot of quality players who move around from time to time, but you know, there's something about this Cardinal uniform, because when players get in this uniform, they seem to excel. And whether it's the tradition, whether it's the expectation, whether it's a combination of all of those factors combined with, of course, their talent, the Cardinals seem to bring the best out of these players. And Encarnacion is certainly one of those, and he's having a good year.
I'm sure there's a pressure to play the game a certain way, not only coming from your leaders and from your minor league managers and your GM. I'm sure that pressure is implied from your veteran teammates that have worn a Cardinals uniform for a long time. 1-2 the count. Fastball up in the zone, and that one lifted down the line. Koski looks at that one to reach the seats. Up in the zone with this last pitch, fortunate to get it back.
Yeah. Encarnacion struggles with balls down in the zone, so I'm a little surprised. And you can see where Chad set up there. He wasn't really looking for a ball up in that part of the strike zone. Juan is not someone that's going to take a walk, so you can, I think, expand the strike zone to some degree with him as well.
And he expanded it, a breaking ball away, broke his bat. Corey Koski retires him, and he hit his spot. That one's still even a little bit up, but off the plate outside. And at least to give Encarnacion maybe a little bit of credit, a couple of years ago he doesn't even make contact with that pitch.
He's swinging, though. There's no question about that.
So he is retired. What do we know about Chris Duncan, other than his daddy's the pitching coach?
And he's not here because of that. This is not a family situation. He's a very good young hitter. I saw him last year in Memphis. He works very hard. He wants to get those arms extended, though, so you need to crowd him and pitch in on this guy.
That's all. You know what? I don't want to say all, but that's a lot of young, tall power hitters across the board for him. Huh? Get those arms extended.
Well, absolutely, and he is you know, great upper body strength. I think you're going to see. I think you're going to see David probably throw him some soft stuff here.
1-1 the count. Hit the inside corner, as you said first, making sure those arms don't get extended. Let's see if, as Gord mentioned, they go to something off speed now that they've evened the count. 2-0 Cardinals. Jimmy Edmonds with a 2 RBI double. There you go. Off speed in 2-1. Busch, 14th start of the year. Now he has pitched 6 or more innings in 11 of his first 13 starts this year. Consider the fact, folks, that Dave Busch, when acquired, was supposed to be in that 5th starter slot. Didn't mean to, but he did. And when you think about Dave Busch as a 5th starter, that's a dream.
Well, it is, and you know, when we traded for him, there was some debate on how he would be utilized. Coming into spring training, it was wide open for the 5th spot, but we also knew that he had some experience in the bullpen and even as a closer. So part of his appeal was his versatility, his competitiveness, somebody that goes right after the hitters. But I think as he continues to work here in the starting rotation, he's learning to make the adjustments.
And there you see the innings pitched for Dave Busch. He is, as we mentioned last night, in the top 10 in the National League in innings pitched. As a guy that's a little lower down on the depth chart, so he's been dependable. More soft stuff. It's 3-2. Busch, 26 years old. There's another upside. I mean, there is more learning to do, and he's got a young arm, doesn't he?
He does, because he caught early in his career in college, converted to closing at Wake Forest, and then Toronto bounced him back and forth from the bullpen to the starting rotation. And there are still scouts to this day that think he probably would be better suited to the bullpen, but he's done a fine job for us here in the rotation.
You bet he went around. Little help there. Strike 3. As my color analyst Gord Ash today talking about, you got to pitch him in, then throw him soft stuff. Worked out nicely. But that man's got to execute it. Darren Sutton, Gord Ash, Craig Kishon. Glad to have you back at Miller Park. Jeff Suppan is completing his warm-up tosses. Ned Yost, very timely hitting. He looked to Corey Hart as a pinch hitter. Corey available as a pinch hitter again in this ball game. Honestly hoping we might get to see him start in center field today. Ricky Weeks, Bill Hall, Jeff Jenkins, Carlos Lee, Prince Fielder, Corey Koski. GMC lineup rounded out by Gross, Moeller, and Bush. 31 years old and on the mound for the St. Louis Cardinals is Jeff Suppan. 5-4, ERA of 5.01, and Gord, our Dodge scouting report for the right-hander.
Well, Jeff is a veteran pitcher with a lot of know-how. He uses all 4 pitches. He'll use his curve or slider as an out pitch, and he'll pitch in to right-hand hitters with his fastball, which is in the average range. Very, very dominant against the Brewers last year, and we just need to be patient and get the pitch that you want to have and drive it and make the most out of it.
And he certainly has made the most out of it. I mean, that has been the career mantra for Jeff Suppan, no doubt about it. Never has been an overpowering pitcher. And a small little note today as he pitches, and the Brewers hope that it doesn't happen, but he is pitching for career victory number 100 in his career. He's ahead of Ricky Wicks, 0-2.
And 10% against the Brewers.
11-2 with a 3.40 ERA in his career against Milwaukee. Pitched against the Boston, or for Boston early in his career, then Arizona, Kansas City, back with Boston. Ricky drives it deep left center field. Warning track, wall, out of here. With that home run hit by Ricky Weeks, another $17,000 has been raised to support prostate cancer research. To make a donation, call 1-800-798-CURE. Go online, prostatecancerfoundation.org. Ricky Weeks scored, reminds you at times of Ricky Henderson, his childhood hero.
Well, he sure does. And although he's only faced Suppan 8 at-bats previous to this, as a young player, he continues to learn, continues to use those experiences to adjust, and here you see a ball that was down in the zone where Ricky likes it, was able to get the good part of the bat on the ball and drive it over the outfield fence. And you know, when you give up 2 runs in the first, you want to try and make a mark. Even you don't necessarily have to even the score, but you want to make sure you make your mark to serve notice that you're just not going to give this game away.
And so that is 10 home runs allowed by Jeff Suppan. Billy Hall, 14 home runs this year, and out front, something off speed, hanging in there, 0-2. Billy 4 for 10 in the series, and he is riding a very modest, but he'll take it, 4-game hitting streak. And that hitting streak has 7 hits, a couple of home runs, and 4 RBIs.
You know, Suppan's 11 victories, by far the most over any other opponent. I think Detroit is second with 8, and you know, there are certain matchups that the clubs have, and whether it's team related, as it can be with certain matchups, or in this case pitcher team related, there are just certain matchups that for a variety of reasons just seem to go one way, and that's clearly the case here with Jeff Suppan.
And we've seen it this year. Chan-Ho Park, it has showed up. We saw Ismael Valdez was a guy who, ironically enough, fell into that category last year, and though he didn't appear to be getting many other people out last year, found a way to get the Brewers out. As you say, sometimes the uniform just provides comfort.
Well, that plus there's a certain style, and Suppan and Park and Valdez, you were talking about last year, all similar style type of pitchers. They're not really powered pitchers. They're guys that really know how to work the strike zone, move the ball in and out. And when you don't have as much discipline as you would like to have for some of our hitters, and they chase, then that puts them on the defensive.
Well, for Craig to be on that graphic, he's got to start contributing at some point. Swing and a miss. Hall goes down on strikes. You see Bill Schroeder not on that graphic we showed you a moment ago. Bill is celebrating a family day, which all of us would do. My partner is with his son Billy, who is graduating today from Muskego High School. So congratulations to the entire family as they celebrate what is a great day and a milestone kind of day. But as far as I'm concerned, you can take Craig off that graphic. 1 away. Here's Jeff Jenkins. It's a tough shop to work in, isn't it?
Very tough. I've noticed that.
Here's Jenks fouling it off. Now, the anatomy of a struggling player. You sit up as an executive. You have video. You know that there are words being imparted to Jeff. As you look at Jeff, in your mind, what's he battling most?
Jeff is a hitter that, as we all know, very, very streaky hitter, and he's one of these guys that the long debate in baseball about success and confidence, and he clearly is a success-first type of player. And when he gets success, he feeds on that, and he can carry a club, as he did for our club in the second half last year. You know, Suppan historically is not a good matchup for him. He struggles against this type of pitcher, and although he has been driving the ball against right-handers more than left-handers, as you would suspect.
But that's what you're talking about right there. I mean, it comes to fruition, what Gord is speaking of. Let's quickly take a look at the defense, by the way, working behind Jeff Suppan. He's about 1-to-1 ground balls to fly balls, so all will be busy, including John Rodriguez working in the outfield. Gold Gloves certainly a boatload at center field and at third base. Eckstein, Luna, and Duncan round out the infield. And Yadier Molina is behind the plate.
Carlos has also struggled against Suppan. He's only 10 for 53 lifetime against him, and when you're looking at your number 3 and number 4 hitter having a tough time against a certain pitcher, that makes it difficult to have some sequential offense. But you know, I don't think Suppan this year, at least to date, has been the same type of pitcher he's been in the past. He's given up more home runs. He's a little less dominant of left-handed hitters than he has been in the past. So maybe things will start to turn.
Good dive down and in, and this is Carlos Lee. Friday night, it's been a big turnaround for the Brewers left fielder. He has 3 home runs against St. Louis this year, whereas the Cardinals owned him last year. Credit to Carlos Lee for making the adjustment.
I think he's taken 2 home runs from them, so he's a +5. Is that the way that works?
Yeah, that's exactly the way it works. He had taken a couple of blasts away, one at Miller Park, one in St. Louis, that key one in St. Louis on getaway day. This one on the ground, Scott Rowland, very dependable. Shoots it on across the diamond, but the Brewers, as Gord was speaking of, they answered back. They at least made their mark, sent a message that they're coming back in this ball game. The truck. On June 18th, as the Brewers take on the Indians, all fans in attendance receive a collectible as that one is belted. Speaking of souvenirs, deep left field, Yadier Molina, and it's a 3-1 game. Molina, who has heated up over the last couple of weeks. I mean, that's a no-doubter, and with that home run by the baby Molina, another $17,000 has been raised to support prostate cancer research. To make a donation, you can call 798-CURE on the 1-800 number, or go online to prostatecancerfoundation.org. Well, Gord, I mean, he's hitting 8 of his last 9 games. A couple of weeks ago, he was hitting 169, not anymore.
No, he's too good a player to be at that level for that length of time. But you know, this is a pitch that's right down the heart of the plate and into the strength zone of Molina. And you hate to see that after your clubs come back to half the score at least, to come right back out on the first pitch and give that run up hurts. But this is where David Bush strength comes out. He's really competitive. He'll keep you in the game, much like Capuano did last night with not his best stuff, battled, worked hard, kept you in the game, and gave you a chance to come back.
Just to finish the thought, by the way, don't forget to join us June 18th, Brewers and Indians. And again, all fans in attendance receive a collectible Cecil Cooper bobblehead doll. Compliments of Pick and Save and Palermo's Pizza. 1-2 the count on Hector Luna.
David's going to have to manage his pitch count, because 30 pitches in the first inning isn't going to let him get deep into this game.
You noted something. You were sharing something with me with all the research you guys are able to do, that you know, early in innings is when he gets in trouble, and he is a guy that, because of his aggressiveness, the numbers tell you, Gord, that you know, early in innings in those situations, that's when he gets in the most trouble.
He does. He's got a high batting average against on leadoff hitters in an inning. He's got a high batting average against with nobody out, and he's got a high batting average in the first couple of innings. And it's usually from this point on that he takes control of a game.
And he pitches much better here at Miller Park. Now, we have tried to come up with reasons. We know Bush is a guy who's an athlete, likes to run and shag and play catch on the day that he pitches. but has just really struggled on the road. I know you guys are armed with more statistics than you can imagine, but that doesn't always mean there's a reason for it.
No, we've looked at that, and there is no discernible reason for it.
Ricky Weeks turns that into an out.
It could be just as simple as a comfort level, or you know, aware of his usual surroundings. But you are right. We do have a lot of research now. Baseball's always been a game that's lended itself to statistical analysis, but probably even more so now. And we have a number of young guys in the office, led by Carl Muller, who produce a lot of information that the coaches use, the players use, and often to their advantage.
Okay, well then here comes, and I'm glad you brought that up, the next question to obviously follow it up. How much do you have to combine the new with the old? Basically, you're a baseball guy. Doug's a baseball guy. There's a lot that numbers won't tell you that you just see with your naked eye, correct?
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's a learning process. And most fans are familiar with the book Moneyball, and when you read that book, you get the impression that any kind of subjective analysis is really not important, and you only deal with the objective numbers. And I think what Doug has brought here to Milwaukee is a very, very interesting blend of statistical analysis and old-fashioned scouting subjective analysis, and you marry them. You use the best of both, and it's an excellent way to approach it. We don't get locked into any type of philosophy, and you make yourself aware and available to all of the information at hand. We employ a full-time statistical analysis, much like the Oakland A's do. We have a number of young men in the office who do a lot of that as well, and it's all good stuff. But you put it all together, and it comes up with a complete package.
Speaking of good stuff, that's good stuff. 1, 2, 3, go the Redbirds. Laboratory today. I mean, look at that get up. 3-1 the score. Our upcoming television schedule. We're taking you to the Natty. Brought to you by Miller. It's What's on Tap. Craig Kashan will rejoin us. Been told he's with us today. Brewers Live, our television show, will get things going and wrap things up. And then it is back home, a very unique series. The Cleveland Indians, and even more interesting, I think, the Detroit Tigers coming to town.
I don't think anybody, when we saw that on the schedule in the wintertime, looked at it that way.
Hello, Prince Fielder. Goodbye, baseball. When is he going to be king? We're raising some money today, folks. With that home run hit by the soon-to-be king, another $17,000 has been raised to support prostate cancer research. To make a donation, call 1-800-798-CURE.
Prince is so strong. He's very, very quick for a big man with his bat, and obviously right in his wheelhouse and able to take full advantage of that.
You know what's interesting about Prince Fielder, and as you guys watch him as his employer and supervisor, we talked to Tony Gwynn when he was in town, and you see a little bit of Tony Gwynn in his approach, how he uses the whole diamond, yet he has power that is pretty much unmatched.
He'll take if you give it to him, he's going to take it. But if you want to pitch him away, he'll go to left field. He's a good hitter that way, and as we've even seen one club employ the shift against him, and he was able to take full advantage of that. So I don't think that clubs are going to be able to pitch him any which one way, and he's going to have to continue to make adjustments as he goes along. But he's been able to do that so far. Koski's seen a lot of Jeff Suppan and has done reasonably well, and this should be a good matchup here.
Canadian Corey Koski.
Canadian Corey Koski.
Who takes a strike. Gord Ash, of course, a native Canadian. Doug Melvin as well, the general manager, executive vice president of the Brewers, and a former goalie as well.
And of course the original Corey Hart, Canadian.
And there you go, a walk to Corey Koski. We were talking earlier about general managers and leaders of teams and how it's changed. Our Car Soup emailed the booth. Why are there so many younger general managers in baseball? Theo. Wow, Theo from Chippewa Falls. If you'd like to ask the question, please kick on carsoup.com/baseball. Your thoughts on why there are so many general managers these days that are younger?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of reasons for that. You know, Doug and I, our process was working in the minor leagues, working in scouting, spending a lot of time learning the game from the inside. And I think with Moneyball and the success that Oakland had, that created a whole new philosophy and approach. And it blended a lot of non-traditional baseball values with the ability to make decisions and the ability to direct. And clearly John Daniels, Josh Burns, Theo Epstein, there's a number of younger general managers have been able to show that there is no one way to do it. Again, you're looking at opportunity. They've made the most of their opportunity. We have several young men here in our office that are putting in their time, learning the craft, and someday they'll be general managers as well, I'm sure, because they have the passion for the game and the ability to learn from the inside out. And I think you're starting to see owners, different types of owners of clubs too, who are looking for more than just somebody that's been a lifelong baseball guy, been around scouts, and has maybe the bias that some long-term baseball people have, and for fresh approaches and the way to handle money. Money's become such a big part of the game now, and budgeting and the ability to make the most out of your payroll. I think owners, as they become more involved from their regular businesses, are looking for some of those traits in their baseball business as well.
Right in on the hands. Just in time for the out. Of course, joining us, Gord Ash. And very, very well equipped to discuss that question sent in by Theo with quotes around it from Chippewa Falls. Began, and I would imagine, as we show this bio, that Pat Gillick early in your career laid a major footprint on who you are as a baseball executive. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I joined Pat in 1984, my first year in the baseball operation, having worked in stadium operations in Toronto previously to that. And you know, Pat was an old school baseball type guy, and he was involved in scouting. He was involved in player development. He was involved in trades. He left a lot of the contract negotiation to his partner in Toronto at that time, Paul Beeston, who mentored me on that part of the business. But you know, Pat was a very, very interesting guy. He was an innovator, one of the first to really exploit the Rule 5 draft with players like Willie Upshaw and Kelly Gruber and George Bell, and very, very involved in Latin America. And the Blue Jays, during his tenure, made a lot of use of Latin American players, not only to field on our own club, but to use as trades to acquire other players. So. And that was a big part of it. And we really didn't get involved all that much in statistical analysis. I like to joke now that Pat really had a computer in his head, because he had all those numbers in his head. They weren't in a hard drive somewhere. He had such a great mind and such a great memory that they were there, and he had them when he needed them. But our emphasis in Toronto was really on the more of the old school, on the field type of approach, more so than the statistical analysis. And you know, Doug really educated me to that and the value of that when I came here, as he had been getting involved in that when he was in Texas. So it's been a good blend and a good approach, as we talked about earlier, to utilize the best of both of these approaches.
2-1 the count to Chad Moeller. And Moeller, with that .211 batting average, couple of home runs, 5 RBIs. Just 1 for 14 in the month of June, and maybe is starting to see the effects of so much playing time for Damian Miller. Miller, I think, surprising a lot of us coming into spring training in fabulous shape. Ned says that he looked that good last year. I'll debate it with the Brewers skipper. He looks unbelievable as far as his shape this year, and it's netting for Damian Miller more playing time.
It's all that snow shoveling in lacrosse in the wintertime. It builds that upper body strength.
Which obviously, as a Canadian and now as a resident of Wisconsin, you deal with all the time. 3-1 the count. Dave Bush waits on deck, handles the bat very nicely. And a nice job blocking it up. We'll get a chance to see Dave Bush handle the bat with 1 out and a couple of runners on.
Now, this is the biggest aspect of the game that both Doug and I have wrestled with since we've come to the National League, because for 25 years working in the American League, you didn't have these situations, and you know, we still struggle at times when we're talking about players and how they'll fit in our lineup, and can we use them as a for an instance, it goes through our mind, well, we'll get them some at-bats as a DH. Well, of course, you don't have a DH, and you look at what the pitchers have to do and how important they are in National League Baseball, and I really find it entertaining.
0-1 the count. Certainly a difference in the game that obviously you knew as a general manager, building a championship team, but entertaining, a good word. I think there's we see the guys now, they love to play chess in the Brewers clubhouse. I think it's makes it much more of a chess game for managers.
Well, it is, and you know, sometimes you fall into a routine and you'll have your pitcher do a certain thing, but Ned's not like that. Ned, we saw it last night, I think, or no, it was the night before, when there was a bunt attempt on and then he swung away, just like we saw right there.
See if they can hurry and turn it over. David Eckstein, a real hard slide going in. Chad Mulder, but they managed to turn it over on 1-6-3, the double play. But Prince Fielder makes it a one-run game. Look at! Well, Father's Day is 1 week away. Major League Baseball really involved in a very special fundraising effort throughout the week. Prostate cancer research, and standing by with two very, very honored guests, Tommy Lasorda and Michael Milken is Craig Deshawn. Guys, you have the floor.
All right, thanks very much, Darren. Appreciate it very much. And Michael over here to my right, Tommy Lasorda over here to my left. And Michael, I want to start with you. You created this this whole foundation and this relationship with Major League Baseball. And first and foremost, you got to be happy. 3 home runs already here today.
You're not kidding. Each one of those is worth $17,005. So it's over $50,000 for cancer research.
Tell me why this is so important to you. A lot of people on the inside obviously know that you had prostate cancer and fought it at one point, but that kind of triggered this whole relationship to get the home run challenge going this week or so leading up to Father's Day next Sunday.
Well, I had been funding cancer research for almost 20 years, and when I was diagnosed in '93, I knew everything about melanoma. I could work on breast cancer. I knew nothing about prostate cancer. And so we needed awareness. With 1 in 6 men being diagnosed with prostate cancer, the most diagnosed cancer in America, we needed awareness. And so the idea was, keep that in the game. Take your friend to a ballpark, come out here on a beautiful day like we have in Milwaukee with a phenomenal stadium, great organization, but take your friend to the ball game and tell them to get checked for prostate cancer, and we raise money. This is our 10th year with Major League Baseball, and it's been a phenomenal experience. And the death rate for men has dropped by 50%.
Outstanding.
In the last 10 years.
You know, a scary number for all you guys out there. In a 9-inning baseball game, 9 men will die of prostate cancer, which you got to get checked. And of course, Tommy, with the baby boomers coming up.
Down from, it would have been 18, it's down to 9. We got to get it down to 0, and that's why we're with you today.
There you go. There you go. And Tommy, you've got a lot to say about this guy to my right here. He's been phenomenal. Ambassador to baseball yourself, still very involved in this.
If I'd have gone to the greatest college in America for 4 years, I'd have never learned anything as much as I've learned from him. What a tremendous man, and if there's anybody who's going to find a cure for prostate cancer, it's Michael. He's given his time, his energy, his money for research. He's got all the greatest doctors in the world working on it, and he's going to make it. And I hope I'm...
Major League Baseball and Fox. What more can you get working for you?
That's great.
You know, next Sunday, I've got the blue wristbands on now over here, and I know you guys do too. A lot of the baseball players, managers, umpires, you name it. We're going to see a lot of blue next Sunday for Father's Day. And it's important, though, that baseball got involved here. You talk about the number of how much money per home run hit already, more than $17,000 per home run just in this game alone.
Only Mike could have gotten it done. And I know I go to funds where he raises money. There ain't anybody like him, believe me. He's in a class by himself.
Or Tommy Lasorda, or Fox Sports.
All right.
I want you to know, Fox's contribution from broadcasting this, men getting checked for prostate cancer goes up 50%. 50% in the month after we do this program.
All right, guys, and Tommy, I want to talk. Can I talk just a little bit of baseball with him? Don't you go anywhere.
Rupert Murdoch, who's been one of our big supporters, and has obviously had prostate cancer himself.
All right, very good. And Tommy, I want to ask you a baseball-related question. You know, you helped put Ben Sheets on the map. You know, obviously with him pitching the gold medal game in the Olympics, he's going through a pretty tough time right now. I know that you're awfully aware of here from a manager, player's perspective. It's hard to let just let the time go by, and you hope somebody gets back in a hurry, but it's not happening.
Well, I spoke to him before the game, and I told him he's got to get well. This team needs him. You know, you can't go out there and pitch every day with everything being okay. You got to feel some hurt in you. You got to be able to pitch. You got to have that ability and desire to go. He's got to go. I told him, you got to get out there. This team needs you.
All right, very good. Fellas, appreciate your time very much.
What a beautiful ballpark here in Milwaukee. Just a great, and Mark Antonazio and the owners have done a great job.
All right, well, it's great to have you guys here, Michael Milken and Tommy Lasorda.
You know, Mark, I don't like him because he's Italian. I like him because I'm Italian.
There you go. All right, fellas, thanks very much. Best to you, okay?
Hey,
right,
Craig, don't let Tommy go.
Hang on a second.
Can you tell Tommy that Darren says, I love Uncle Tommy?
Darren Sutton saying, I love Uncle Tommy.
Darren and Uncle Tommy loves you.
Very good stuff. Thank you, Craig.
See, I was out here, Darren, just waiting for the good stuff, all right?
That's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Popped up. Back behind home plate, and the count 3-2 on Scott Rowland. A very good cause, you know. And I know that we talk a lot about your numbers and your research and your scouts, but as a general manager, as an assistant GM, you too, I would imagine, have your eyes on the community prize as well, too.
Well, absolutely. This is, I mean, once you strip away all the numbers, this is a people business, and the health and concern for people is a very important component of not only the ball club, but of the community as well.
This is a unique baseball community, and I would imagine for you over the last 4 years, a real big learning experience. It's the smallest market in Major League Baseball, but have you found in getting out, whether it's in our neighborhood or going out to events, that this is a city starred for baseball success?
Well, it is, and you can sense it in the crowds that come out. Not so much the last year or two when our club's been a little better and there's a lot more hope. But certainly the first couple of years when we were struggling and starting to try and lay a foundation to build a successful club here, the anticipation that the fans had, the fans here were not happy about what had gone on in the last few years, but they weren't apathetic.
Right.
And I know in my last few years in Toronto, apathy had crept in there after the back-to-back World Series championships, but here that apathy wasn't present, and they were upset, yes, and with a lot of just cause. But this is a great ballpark. It's a great place to come. The fans are very enthusiastic and supportive of the club and what we're trying to do, and most importantly, nobody knows who I am here. So my last few years in Toronto, I couldn't walk down the street without somebody telling me something. So it's pretty good. It's a very, very enjoyable place to live, and we certainly have enjoyed our time here.
Well, what'd they tell you?
I don't think we can talk about it on television.
Show. All right. Well, when we go out west again, San Francisco, you can join us. That's when the cable rules change after about 11 p.m. 1-1 the count. Jim Edmonds drives it into the corner. Going after it, Jeff Jenkins bounds high up and over that wall for a ground rule double. That's huge. With one out, if you can really get after it with Encarnacion, Scott Rowland stays at third because it bounced over that wall.
Absolutely, he would have scored for sure, and sometimes the ground rule double is your best friend, as we saw there. But Edmonds is really locked in today. And the Cardinals have played well as a team in the daytime. I think they have the best record. In fact, I know they have the best record in baseball in day games. And again, another one of these strange stats. Why does that happen? There's really probably no reason for that. But there's a comfort level for them. They see the ball well in the day. We talked about Victor Santos in the past and how poorly he used to pitch in the day, but very, very well at night. So it's a comfort level. Baseball being so much of a mental game, and your mental comfort coming into play in the results, and the Cardinals as a club and Jim Edmonds in particular are really taking advantage of that right now.
So playing well under the sunlight, I would imagine having a very veteran club has a lot to do with that as well. Bouncing ball, so this run will score. See if Billy Hall can throw out Encarnacion, and he does. And just like that, another run. It's 4-2 St. Louis.
And that was a tough play for Billy because he had to wait back for that last hop. And I've seen some criticism in print recently about our field, came from the Padres after their last game here where we took advantage of a bad hop. But this is a very, very tough field for our ground crew to maintain because it's essentially trying to grow grass indoors, and it is a tough thing for them to do. I know Gary Vandenberg and his staff work very hard, and they just have completely resodded the infield on the last road trip, and it's probably still settling a little bit, and there are going to be bad hops from time to time, but it's the same for both clubs, and you don't hear our players making any excuses about that.
No, and that's very interesting that you would bring that up. You would sometimes need to maybe think before you speak and realize that being in the Midwest and having a roof and dealing with inclement weather all winter long, pickoff move, is very different than growing grass in San Diego, California.
Well, absolutely. And even in Phoenix, in their indoor facility, they have a tough time growing grass. Obviously, the weather there is conducive to agricultural activity all the year around, but they have a tough time as well. And I think they do a great job here at Miller Park.
0-2 the count to Chris Duncan. Cardinals lead it 4-2. Darren Sutton. Gord Ash joining us as our color analyst this afternoon, the assistant general manager for the Milwaukee Brewers. Bill Schroeder enjoying a family day at his son Billy's graduation from Muskego High School. David, as they play him to pull, fires it way inside. 1-2 the count.
As we talked about in the first at bat, he's going to want to come in inside on Duncan, but with 2 strikes, a good pitch, move his feet. But you're probably going to see, I would think, a cutter, a breaking ball here.
One and two the count. Little two-seamer. Two-seam fastball. He Maddoxed him there. Started it in and nailed that outside corner. Look at this movement. You're with us at Miller Park. Weeks is set to lead things off. His second at bat here in the bottom half of inning number 3. And strike one the count over the outside corner. Ricky with 49 runs scored. That number went up to 50, tying him with Hanley Ramirez of the Florida Marlins for second in the National League in runs scored. As that one misses outside. Chase Utley, Albert Pujols 52, Hanley Ramirez, Ricky Weeks 50.
Jeff Suppan with a perhaps borderline call on the first pitch is just going to continue to live out there.
Isn't that funny how a pitcher will do that? As you can see the leaderboard in runs scored. You get a call, why wouldn't you go back out there if in fact you think it maybe was a little bit helped? Hitter's going to chase a little bit more too if he thinks the strike zone's been expanded. The right-hander, the native of Encino, California. Misses high and away. There you go. But Ricky, to his credit, not biting.
You see the 380 on base percentage. I think it's one of the strongest improvements in Ricky's game since he's moved to the leadoff spot is his plate discipline.
See how disciplined here on 3-1. Let's see if he can get a pitch to drive. Slider. Okay, then the natural question is, how in the world do you take him out of this leadoff spot? Or do you?
I don't think. I think in time you do when you have someone else, and whether that someone else is a David Krinzel or a Tony Gwynn, that maybe have a little more of the true home leadoff hitter attributes. But at this point, Ricky's a good match for our lineup, and one of the challenges that Ned and the staff have is building a lineup that will, you try to match each individual to their strength, but you also want to work as a unit as well, and that's one of the things that Ned and the staff continue to evaluate.
And Ricky has said, and I'm sure he's, and speaking with him, said the same thing to you. Being a leadoff hitter has forced, and you made note of it, has forced him to be more disciplined.
He was very susceptible when he was hitting down in the order to especially with 2 strikes. He's been a lot better with in this position in the batting order.
St. Louis up by a pair. Everyone has scored in every attempt. Cardinals first, second, and third. Brewers first and second, all scoring at least one run. And that's where we stand now. Weeks in this series is 3 for 7. He's handled St. Louis nicely this year. Always runs hard, so he makes it a challenge for any defender on the infield, and he is the first out. Don't forget, fans, you can win a chance for your Little League team to play at Miller Park's Hellfair Field in Subway's Take Little League to the Big Leagues contest. Pick up your entry form at any participating Subway store. So Ricky retired on the 5-3 ground out. Here's Bill Hall. There's some future general managers there. Taking a look at the all-star balloting process and building their own starting lineup. Sunday afternoon at the ballpark, folks. Is there anything better? A little bit cool. The Midwest has certainly been touched by some chilly weather this week. And the count 0-2 on Bill Hall. Billy struck out back in the first inning, riding a 4-game hitting streak. He won't bite on that breaking ball. There is a theory that I have heard some discuss, and I'm actually one of those, that Billy may be a more effective offensive player when he is playing all over the diamond. I know that's unique, but do you see that at all?
You know, that's been speculated on and certainly talked about, and we discuss it as well. And you know, the evidence is there to support that. When he plays on a regular basis, he doesn't have the same level of production as he does when he moves around. And again, is that keeping you mentally fresh, which keeps you mentally focused more so than falling into routine? I don't know, but clearly it is there, and I think something that he enjoys as well.
2-2 the count, which leads us to the natural next question. What is the very latest this morning, last night, on J.J. Hardy?
Well, J.J. continues to do his rehab. Roger and Dan Wright and our training staff are continuing to work with him. He's trying to keep his arm ready by playing catch, and he gets into his uniform now, gets out on the field, and does very, very limited activity. But you know, it's again, he has to feel comfortable with that ankle, and he's not quite there yet.
Speaking of comfortable with that pitch, high and deep, out of here. We are printing money for prostate cancer research. Thank you, pitchers. With that home run hit by Bill Hall, another $17,000 has been raised to support prostate cancer research. To make a donation, call that 1-800 number 798-CURE or go online, prostatecancerfoundation.org.
And what really sets up this pitch and the ability to drive the ball deep into center field is the fact that he didn't chase. He's a much more disciplined hitter than he has been in the past, and that helps him. That helps him get into accounts where he's going to get a ball that he can drive, and he's got great power. He's got great quickness, and you know, it's a situation where Bill, whether he's playing short, third, left, right, wherever he plays on the field, he's going to be a contributor with the bat.
For Billy Hall, 15 home runs and 32 RBIs now, as Jeff drives one to center field, but down off the end of the bat, and there are 2 away. When JJ's healthy, you know, just to finish the thought on Bill Hall, when JJ Hardy is healthy, Ned deems him a difficult player to manage because you've got to find a spot for him. But I would imagine in your shoes, a joyful player to have on the roster.
Well, absolutely. I mean, he gets overlooked at times because he's not a flashy player. He doesn't make the diving plays. He doesn't, you know, do highlight reel type plays, but he's a very, very steady player, and he's an anchor to the infield. He's a heady player. I think he's a good hitter. I think he's a hitter that's going to have power in time, And his ability there, when we talk as a staff about the player we miss during this tenure of all of the players that we have on the disabled list, J.J. Hardy is a name that comes up front and center all the time. We miss all the players. We certainly miss Tomo and Ben Sheets in the rotation. We all know what's happened in their absence, but the player that gets identified as being important to this ball club to be successful is J.J. Hardy, and because what he does, not in a flashy way, not in an out front type of way, but a steady, everyday way, is J.J. Hardy.
Stabilizes everything, as Gord's talking about. Bill Hall, 15 home runs this year now with that blast.
And then the other thing about Bill Hall being able to move around is that keeps all of your other players fresh. So it's not what it means at shortstop. It means, okay, I can give the third baseman a rest, I can give the second baseman a rest, I can give the left fielder, the center fielder a rest. I mean, I would dare say he could probably play anywhere on the field. He's such a great athlete. But you know, even in those 4 or 5 spots, it really gives you a lot of depth on your club in one package.
He broke his lumber. So we'll do it again, 2-2. He needs a little more pine tar, does Carlos Lee. I'll take my time and save since there is 2-2 with 2 outs, I'll do a little teaser, folks. I'll ask Gord the tougher Carlos Lee question a little bit later.
Can we make it after the game?
No, I have some good ones for you. I have some good ones, but we'll save them. My next question for you is, what's the latest on Tomo Oka?
Tomo Oka is actually feeling pretty well, and I know Dan Wright, who's heading up his rehab's very encouraged with the progress that he's making. Dr. Rosh, our team physician here, who's been following Tomo since the inception of the injury, is encouraged, and I'd like to suggest that we get him out on a rehab later in June and hopefully have him back here in Milwaukee in All-Star time.
Screamer down the line, off the wall. Carlos hooking it on around towards second. Hurry! He's in there with a slide. And a double for Carlos Lee. For Carlos Lee, double number 11. So good news on the health update for Tomo Oka, and more good news for the Brewer bats.
Well, Carlos here gets a ball that he could drive. That's a ball that didn't break as much as Suppan had hoped it would. And Carlos, of course, a professional hitter, was able to drive the ball a little closer at second base than I think he thought it was going to be, as the ball came off the new scoreboard out there in left field, maybe a little more crisply than it had when the wall was a padded wall, or even in the old scoreboard.
All right, we have a moment. No, we don't. I'll ask you anyway. If I'm an opposing general manager and I call, my question is there anything I can do to pry Carlos Lee away from you? Will you at least take my call?
Well, one of the early lessons you learn in this business is to never say never. So you have the conversation and you want to be intrigued by what others may want to offer, not just in Carlos's situation, but for any player. You learn very early there's no advantage into saying no, and certainly in my time in Toronto and Doug's time in Texas, we both had some great players that there were conversations about in trades, but it would have to be terribly one-sided to consider them. And certainly in our case with Carlos, we're not to that point yet where we're ready to say yes or no to anything. We'll talk, we'll explore, because our job is to make the club a better club, a championship club, not only in the short term but in the long term. And we'll talk about anybody. I don't think you can take advantage of any kind of untouchable situation. There are players that are very painful to give up. There's no question about that. But you at least want to have conversations, and I think fans would probably be surprised at the number of conversations that do occur that never amount to anything.
But then, safe to say, you're not out there shopping.
No, not at all. This is, there are players that you have to get aggressive with in terms of making clubs aware that they're available, and whether it's through a contract situation or you feel that they're on the verge of a downturn in performance, and that's not the case here at all.
That wasn't so tough, was it?
No, because it's not the question I expected you to ask.
Oh, good. Well, let me see if I can come up with a tougher one then. 2-1 the count on Prince Fielder. Darn it. Way too easy on our color analyst. Would you like to tell me what the question you expected was? Or would you rather not?
Well, we can play. What is that game where they give you the answer before the question? Oh, Jeopardy. Yes, we can play that.
Oh, so I have to guess. Wow, that's glad we have a few more innings here. I'm glad every team has scored at least a run in every inning. That means we'll have all day.
Well, I don't think the Brewers and Cardinals play quick ball games.
No, they don't. All right, who is or what is Dontrell Willis?
Well,
Is
he's
that the question?
a very, very effective left-handed pitcher.
That's not it then, is it?
No, that's not
Darn.
it. But you know, I do have to put on my baseball executive hat and tell you that it's inappropriate for me to be tampering with other players.
Leave that hat up, and there's a coat rack up there. You can put that hat. Go ahead and leave that up there for a while, Mr. Color Analyst. Prince Fielder draws a walk after the homer his first time up. Here's Corey Koski. Inside, 1-0 the count. Well, there's logical. It's got to be fun for you because you are right there watching the situation unfold, whether it's a trade or whether it's a conversation you have. But to me, I would imagine you sit back and see all the rumors that surround it, and you must get a giggle occasionally.
Well, there's been some very, very good giggles, and the one most recently that, you know, sometimes causes some ill will with the other clubs, and we read about Kyle Loesch and Billy Hall last week, and you know, it's sometimes very concerning how this stuff gets proliferated, and of course it's really blossomed, if that's the proper word, in the last few years with the internet and how much is traffic there is on the internet, and anybody can say anything, and you never know who the originator is of these things, and so it's a part of the business, and you know, it's part of the culture of baseball too. People like to talk about trades and player acquisitions, and I think it's one of the appeals of the game. People call it second guessing and so on when you talk about moves within a game, but I think it's part of the beauty of the game, and it lends itself to it. Other sports don't lend itself as well as baseball does to talking about the moves within the game and the player personnel that may come in, and that's why you see baseball so popular over the winter months even, and never far out of the news.
2-2 the count. 4-3 the Cardinals lead it. Home runs by Weeks, Fielder, and Hall. And a 2-run home run, or make it a solo shot by Yadier Molina, a 2 RBI double by Jim Edmonds, and an RBI ground out by Juan Encarnacion. Now time is called.
This is the point in the game. Jeff's now at 63 pitches, and this is the point in the game that he really has the most difficult time. His track record would tell you pitches 40 through 60, 65, really where he struggles.
So either he makes the adjustment and rolls on, I would imagine, or you get him out of there. That last outing against Cincinnati for Suppan, 6 innings, 8 hits, 3 runs, all earned, couple of walks, couple of strikeouts. Had the identical outing prior to that against Houston. So he certainly, with 2 quality starts back to back, has been manageable for the Cardinals. They won one of the games. They beat Houston. They lost one of the games to Cincinnati last time out. The runners will take off.
And the interesting thing in his last start is he got more ground balls than fly balls, and he's historically more of probably a neutral to fly ball type pitcher. So we haven't seen as much of that today, and that's probably a sign that he's getting the ball up in the strike zone.
The runners go. The 3-2 pitch, got it. Off-speed pitch. Koski goes down on strikes, but Billy Hall pulls the Brewers back in this ball game by a run. Certainly this home run a big one, but he was heroic earlier in the week, and as a matter of fact, we have realized that Bill Hall should wear that C on his jersey, not for captain, but for clutch. On this Sunday, We're not going to go easy on you. We're going to make you use your noggin. Our Aflac trivia question.
Aflac!
Who are the only 4 pitchers in Brewers history to strike out more than 800 batters? More than 800 batters in their career. Very good question.
And don't always think past tense here.
Oh, that's true.
That's the only thing I'll say. Because unfortunately, I did get some advance warning on this.
Oh, that's nice. So taking care of the higher ranking member of the broadcast team. 2-0 the count to Molina. And now it is 2-1. When I was with Benji in Anaheim, Benji would constantly say, and then when Jose joined him, that this is the best of the 3. A little more, I think, physically fit than the 3 brothers. And maybe he is the best of the 3. Is that fair to say?
I think so. I think he's a more complete player, even though he has struggled early on with the bat. He's probably the more complete package than the other 2.
Benji now in Toronto. Benji just a guy who has a good ability to pick up a timely hit, calls a good game, but the one thing they've talked about is you can time him running the bases with an hourglass, and doesn't quite block the ball like I think his Gold Glove indicates, quite honestly.
No, I think the reputation there is exceeding the results, and in fact, you know, I'm not sure that that's a skill that's as going to defend the catchers again here in Bill's absence. I'm not sure that's a skill that is as refined as the critics want to claim that it isn't. That's really not making any sense, I know, but what I'm trying to say is it's a tough thing to do.
There's no doubt, and that's why we look at a guy like Mike Matheny and praise him for as long as the season goes on for the way he blocks the baseball.
He sure does. He's a very, very accomplished catcher and has made himself a pretty good hitter.
Base hit center field for Hector Luna. So if I am to expound upon what you're saying a little bit, then we should consider a guy like Mike Matheny more of the exception than the rule, correct?
I believe so. And you know, one of the things as we scout in the minor leagues, and even as Jack Zarinsik and his scouts look at the amateur draft, catching is just not something that is readily available. If in fact, this past week during our draft meetings, and they list the catchers on the board of 500, 600, 700 players, there's a handful of catchers. And
wow.
It's a tough position, and you know, young people don't want to put in the time and energy. It's a two-way job. It's a defensive job. You have to work hard behind the plate. You have to call the game. You obviously take a lot of physical abuse, but then you have to also factor in the offensive part of it as well.
Jeff Suppan squares the bunt, bunted it hard. Prince fires in time for the out. Nice job. And that's what you're talking about with the kid. Maybe there were some questions about his arm, but he's answered those questions.
He certainly has, and there was no doubt in his mind he was going to third base in this situation. The wheel play, so to speak, was on, and that was executed to perfection. That is one of those plays that they practice over and over and over again during spring training, and you try to get it right. And in that case, they sure did. And this is a very, very important inning for David Bush. You're at the bottom end of the batting order. If there are any soft touches in the Cardinal order, this is where they are. And getting the first 2 men on clearly puts them now into the top of the order and into the heart of the order, which is not something that you wanted to have happen.
And this is what you're talking about. Gabe Gross bobbles the baseball. And a run will score. Boy, oh boy. So David Eckstein is single. I would imagine no RBI and an error on the center fielder only because it looked as if Hector Luna was ready to throw an anchor out. So runners on first and third. That is it. Single. E8, no RBI.
Well, with only one with that one out, there was no urgency for the runner to score. And that did obviously cost a run, and you can't hide our defensive inadequacies and the mistakes that we make. And the unfortunate aspect is every time we make a mistake, it just snowballs, and we have to play more aware of limiting our mistakes to help keep large innings in check. And this is where David Bush's competitiveness will really kick in here if he can keep this runner on third base and limit the damage here to 1 run.
Yeah, with regard to errors, very disappointing numbers this year. You never want to lead the league in errors, but the Brewers have been right there or amongst the top 2 or 3 all season long. And it's not as if they don't work at it, Gord, but an inadequacy that I would imagine you guys discuss on a daily basis.
We do, and there is only one way to address it, and that's repetitive practice. And that clearly was a case where Gabe was thinking about throwing the ball before he fielded the ball. And you know, young players have a tendency to rush. We've talked many times about on the infield Ricky's tendency to rush, and you have to slow the game down. You have to slow it down not only mentally but physically, and field the ball, then make your play. And in Gabe's case there, he clearly was looking to see where he should be throwing the ball before he actually caught it.
Base hit and an RBI. Look at David Eckstein hustling all the way into third, never skipped a beat. So John Rodriguez, his first hit. Now the Brewers a bit in hot water. It's 6-3, and again the beat goes on as Mike Maddox will visit the mound. Every inning someone has done some scoring.
And this has been reminiscent of David Bush's outing against the Cardinals in St. Louis, and he struggled that day with not quite command of all of his pitches, and he's having much the same difficulty today.
And there you see David Eckstein. He never misses a beat. 6-3 the score. The Cardinals have scored 2, 1, and 2 in the first to the fourth. Milwaukee scoring a run in each the first, second, and third innings. And now, as you mentioned, with a walk to the number 7 hitter, a single from the number 8 hitter, the pitcher reaching on a fielder's choice, but you get it out. Now here you are, Eckstein, Rodriguez, now Rolen and Edmonds. Even though Molina was retired, you hate to say it, but it all starts with that walk to Yadier Molina. Rolen has been walked twice, and he scored both times. Down off the end of the bat. Gabe Gross surrounds it. David is tagging. The throw goes to the cutoff man, and Eckstein scores the 7th run of this ball game for Scott Rolen. RBI number 39 on this season. And it is 7-3. So it's a funny thing, this game of baseball, folks. You would open the box score and you would look at a hitter that at this point, if it were fresh, would not have an official plate appearance, would not have a hit. But Scott Rolen's got 2 walks. He's got 2 runs scored and an RBI. He's been all over this game.
In the middle of everything, no question about it.
Jasper, Indiana, Scott Rolen. 6 seasons of 25 or more homers and a Gold Glove in the same season. There's your definition of complete player. Down the line for Jim Edmonds. That one is foul. Milwaukee takes their show on the road. Up next, the Cincinnati Reds. We'll have it for you tomorrow night. Zach Jackson, looking forward to seeing him pitch for the first time on television. Looked certainly like he belonged in his first outing against Aaron Harang, soft throwing right-hander. Or command right-hander, that's more respectable. Jim Edmonds way out front. We're going to have 3 or 4 Brewers come together. Somebody catch it. How about Billy Hall? Good looking play. He was around on the shift and he hauls it in, but St. Louis Cardinals hurt the Brewers. A real kick right there with 3. We like to call this our trivia portion of the game. The only 4 pitchers in Brewers history to strike out 800 or more batters. Teddy Higuera, Jim Slayton, Ben Sheets, and Moose Haas, who will be joining Gord, Ash, and I here in just a little bit. Moose Haas. You know, the thing that stands out to me, and we'll ask him about it, and I know you pointed out something that you're none too fond of. But you look at a guy, and it shows you how the game has changed a bit. 231 major league starts, 55 complete games. Every fourth time he went out, he threw a complete game.
It's probably the biggest change in the game. The number of innings that a starter would throw, the complete games.
Gabe Gross, right field. Encarnacion in time for the out. Mr. Gross interrupted your thought process there. Continue about how the game has changed.
Well, I know, you know, you look at some of the, get out the record book and look at some of the big starters, and certainly these starters, Teddy Higuera and Jim Slayton, Moose Haas, even Chris Bosio, durable guys that went deep into games, and that's not even looking at guys like Koufax and Sam McDowell and Don Drysdale, guys like that went deep into games, if not complete games. But you know, Moose Haas, special place in my heart because he used to kill our Blue Jays.
I know. I knew you were going to say that. 11-4 in 21 starts against your Toronto Blue Jays.
If there was, and again, it speaks to what we were talking about earlier in the game, why the Brewers and the Blue Jays, we had some pretty good ball clubs but could not beat the Brewers. The Brewers were our nemesis club, both here in Milwaukee and in Toronto. And Moose Haas was a big part of that many times.
Chad Moeller, good to see. Chad with a walk and a single, and when your club is down 4, you certainly will take any sort of offense, but you've got to be pulling for Chad to get it going offensively, and it's tough with sporadic playing time. It looks like Dave Bush might be done. Jose Capian warming in the bullpen. He is done. Let's see. Well, good to see that Brady Clark is, you know, that shoulder bothering him a bit throwing last night, but good to see he's capable at least of swinging the bat today.
Dr. Rosh examined Brady after the game last night and felt that he had just irritated his shoulder a little bit. Wasn't overly concerned about it, and obviously, given the fact he can swing the bat here, that we shouldn't expect anything long term.
This is the throw that aggravated it last night.
You can see the extension that he got in his arm and the pressure he put on his elbow in this particular throw, but also in the next at bat, he felt a tweak there, but he also felt a further tweak on his next at bat, and that's when he got a little concerned.
Can't put any mustard on that one as he pops it up to the right side. He is pitched in by Suppan, and there are 2 outs.
Now, Brady has certainly been our most consistent hitter over the last 30 days, and I know he struggled early in the year, but in the last probably since early May, he's really been one of our most consistent hitters, not only in terms of getting base hits, but getting on base and really making the bottom of the order productive.
It's so important, and again, that's a National League thing, Gord, that a lot of people don't always talk about. To me, anyway, after spending a couple of years as an American Leaguer's son and then an American League announcer with the Angels, and you with so much time spent in the American League, but you look at the National League, to me, hitting 8th may be one of the toughest assignments in the National League in starting lineups, and it's so important, as you say, to get the pitcher out of the way, and Clark's been doing that.
He has, and it's a vital position, and it takes a very special, selfless player to be in that position, because sometimes you have to give up your own personal gain for the benefit of the team, and Brady certainly has been that kind of player. He is that kind of character, and didn't get the kind of quality at bat he wanted in that particular at bat, but overall has done a great job for us.
Hector Luna in Tony La Russa's 8th slot in the lineup. Singleton scored a run, got the pitcher involved as Suppan reached on a fielder's choice, an unsuccessful sac attempt, but nonetheless getting on and extending that inning.
But overall, the bench in the National League, the makeup of your bench, and it's one of the areas that Doug Melvin tried to address this year. The makeup of your bench is so vital in the National League, and the usable parts you have. And I think in Jeff Cirillo and certainly in Gabe Gross, and the nice job that Corey Hart's done lately. And even though we're probably going with one position player, one bench player less as we look to strengthen our pitching staff, they've done a great job for us.
Bill Hall strides toward home plate with a chance to make it a one-run game. Maybe a little bit of mojo from the third inning will make a difference. This is what he did in the third. Just over that wall in straightaway center field for Hall, home run number 15.
Well, you know Jeff Suppan is a veteran pitcher, and certainly with Dave Duncan coming out to talk, they're talking about the approach to Billy. They're going to try and pitch him differently, I'm sure, than they did the last time. Try and exploit his weaknesses, make him chase out of the strike zone, take away from his power. And Bill's going to have to resist. He's going to have to get the count in his favor and get a pitch he can drive again.
Another comfortable day for Jeff Suppan. Coming in with that 5-4 record, very well supported.
You know, he's into the 70s in the pitch count too, so he's going to tax their bullpen as well as they continue to get loose in that St. Louis bullpen, just in case they're called upon here in the next short while.
Billy takes wide, 1-0 the count. Again, the line for Bush. Very disappointing day for the Brewers right-hander. In his 14th start of the year, 4 innings, 7 hits, 7 runs, all earned, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts.
Well, both pitchers have been very successful in their past in Miller Park. Neither have been as effective today as they have been in the past. Now with that pitch on the outside corner, you're going to see the next pitch, I'm sure, probably go just a little bit farther on the outside part of the plate.
Billy with a 5-game hitting streak. He drives it down off the end of the bat into left field, diving attempt, and it gets by Rodriguez. Let's watch it roll. Hall hustling on around. A couple of runs will score. Heading in toward third. They stop him at third. It gets over the head of Eckstein. Maybe, just maybe, you could have rolled the dice there. But now it's a ball game again. This is not a pitcher's matchup, folks, as Rodriguez took a chance, and when he took that chance, he was torched.
Well, oftentimes when you're an occasional player and you get that chance to play, you want to make the great play. And here Rodriguez tries to make that great play, can't do it, almost got there. Ball gets behind him, and instead of a single falling in and perhaps loading the bases, you have 2 runners score and a man on third. But that's what happens when you're a part-time player and you want to make the impression and you want to make the great play and you want to show that you deserve more playing time. You fall into that trap.
Boy, is that a great point. And you watched that. You watched that for years as a baseball executive. Your players trying to catch your eye to find a little more offense.
So Taguchi's been very, very good in that role as the 4th outfielder. Obviously getting a day off today, and John wants to make his mark. He wants to show Tony La Russa, look, you can count on me when you put me out here, and trying to make the great play and make a great catch for his pitcher and save that inning.
If only for a split second, I think Billy might have thought that ball was caught. But then immediately took off out there. 0-2 the count to Jeff Jenkins. Jeff 0 for 2. For Jeff, he hit .290 in the month of April, and since hitting .225 in May and June combined.
I don't think that Jeff Suppan got that pitch on Billy Hall where he wanted to.
No.
I think he wanted to go more outside, got it down the heart of the plate, and Billy was able to drive it.
So a big day for Hall. Jenkins unhappy, flips the bat at home plate. Marvin Hudson telling him immediately that's $100, an equipment fine there, and Jenkins disappointed. The struggles continue for the Brewers right fielder as he discusses balls and strikes. Ned Yost will come out and extend the conversation. A lot of movement on it. Ned's been tossed. Now Ned's hot. More after this. Certainly glad to have you back. Moose Haas commenting after the big Brewers victories, and the Milwaukee Brewer from the late 1970s until 1985 on Turn Back the Clock Day on Retro Sunday. Moose Haas joining us in the booth along with Gord Ash. And Moose, congratulations on your big day. It's good to have you back. Yeah, really good to have you here. I gotta get right to it because I know you'll have a little fun with it. That's your old catcher down there, and your old catcher got a little frustrated with the home plate umpire, didn't he?
I enjoyed that. He was very animated. It's good to see that again.
Juan Encarnacion ready to lead things off, and Jose Capian as part of our U.S. Cellular call to the bullpen. Moose Haas, Gord Ash joining us. And the count is 1-1. So what's this been like for you? I mean, we've been thrilled to see Benji come back, Ben Ogilvy and Gorman and a lot of the old Brewers. What's this experience been like for you coming back?
Oh, it's tremendous. I always like coming back to Milwaukee. I mean, the last time I was here was 4 years ago. I think that we did that reunion of the '82 team, which was great to see all those guys. But just to get back to this city and see all these fans and how they get into the game is something special.
Seeing that ball and glove bring back some fond memories?
Yeah, it brings back some really good memories. I don't know if I can throw it up there anymore.
And there you, with Moose Haas joining us in the booth, the pitch to Duncan, diving attempt by Corey Koski, a base hit. In his career for the Milwaukee Brewers, and you know what? We were talking about this, Gord and I, before you came in here. The concept of the complete game. Did you feel like back then, and did all pitchers feel like, if I take the baseball, I got to finish what I started?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how you were groomed in the minor leagues. You, as a starting pitcher, do your job of 7 innings, and please don't give them any more than 3 runs. Keep your team in the game. Now, what I see when I watch the game, they go through 5, or you're lucky to get 6.
Yeah, your Brewer teams back then were known as an offensive club, the wall bangers. You feel any recollection of how the pitchers were overlooked during that time? Did that bother you at all? Or were you happy just to let the hitters get all the credit?
No, that's fine. I mean, that's our job, to go out there and keep our team in the game. And they're supposed to score runs. That's how you win. You can't win if you don't score. And we certainly had a great team that could do that back then.
Gord, anything you'd like to ask him about Toronto?
Well, Moose, I don't know if you realize this or not, but I was on the opposition in Toronto, and I know the Blue Jays were a club that you relished pitching against, it seemed like.
I can remember that I got my first major league victory there. That was very memorable.
Bunted out toward third, a sacrifice bunt. I'm gonna take you back to talking a little bit more about Ned, because Ned was passionate in defense there of Jeff Jenkins and tossed from the game. I'm gonna put you in the color analyst chair just a little bit now, and when you see your player and an umpire go to work there, and in a situation like that, at times I think if you're Ned Yost, maybe even if you're losing, it's bigger. You come out, you light a fire under your club, correct?
Oh, no doubt about it. And you get the fans behind it too. They just love to see that, and you fight for your players. And as a team, it does pull you together.
Luna takes outside. 1-0 the count. Did you ever think, as you see Jeff Jenkins unhappy with that pitch over the inside corner, did you ever think, as your part-time battery mate anyway, that number 3 would be a major league manager back in the day?
I knew he was a student of the game, and he studied the hitters all the time like that. To see him up here at the big league level does not surprise me.
Inside, 2-0 the count. As you see him here, and he's hot here now, fighting for his club. This is pretty good work, isn't it?
This is really good.
Break this down. What makes this good work?
I can't tell what he's saying. Read those lips.
Harvey could do that occasionally, couldn't he?
Harvey could do that. George did that, but George had a very limited vocabulary. We could always predict what he was going to say.
Moose Haas joining us here in the booth. What are you up to now? I know you are in great shape, as we saw in the in the shot, but I think you're helping others get in great shape, aren't you?
I do. It's been 6 years, and I probably have 20 people that I train, and then I have kids from ages from 6 years up all the way up until their adulthood. So and it's fun to watch them improve and grow.
And let's hope those runners will stay at second and third, and they do. And you focus a lot on those that skate, correct, for a living?
I do, and mostly figure skaters who are very underrated as athletes. They take a lot of beating, and they're there every day and dedicated, really dedicated.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. We saw Michelle Kwan here, a big part of a contingent here in town. Did you get a chance to spend some time with her last night?
Yes, my wife knows Michelle very well, and we chatted in the hotel for a long time. And we had 8 others with us yesterday also.
Great.
I believe their show is going on at 3 o'clock today here.
So you still have time? Where is that show?
I believe it's Bradley.
Okay. We like to promo everything. I mean, this is what we're here to do. If you have anything else, I mean, we're here to help. Moose Haas, let it be known, because I don't want to let this slide by with the pitcher hitting in 2 outs. The greatest fantasy camp coach I've ever had. He got the most out of me, folks. And you could tell that he trains folks. No offense to Dale Swaim. He was kind of the assistant coach there. But I could play for Moose.
We had a good team with you there, D.
Yeah, I was horrible the next year.
Now, did he pitch?
Well, he was told he couldn't by the director.
Into right field. All kidding aside, it is an honor to have you back. Thanks for sitting in with us, and it's a treat.
Thanks for having me back here.
Moose Haas joining us, celebrating those 1980 Milwaukee Brewers. Milwaukee Brewers baseball on FSN North is presented by Wisconsin Lottery and its family of instant scratch games. Odds are you'll like them. And by Miller. There's good enough and there's better than it has to be. Miller, good call. Hey Brewers fans, watch Brewers games live online whenever you are away from Milwaukee, exclusively from MLB.tv. MilwaukeeBrewers.com has more live games than anyone else. MilwaukeeBrewers.com, where baseball and all the teams really in Major League Baseball is always on. So Taguchi is now in left field. And Carlos takes a strike. I don't want to get too far beyond. And we were honored to be joined by Moose Haas, but I wanted to bring Gord back to the situation, since the Brewers are now back on offense with Robin Yount as their acting manager. And I know while we got Moose in here settled in, you watched the entire situation as Ned Yost came out in defense of Jeff Jenkins. How did you see it as he dealt with Marvin Hudson?
Well, I think there are times, and Moose said it, there are times that the manager needs to set a tone, and Jeff obviously has been struggling, and that was a borderline pitch, no question about it. And when the manager takes a role like that, especially for one of your better players, it does send a message that your manager is behind you, that your manager is supportive. We know Ned's a passionate guy, and he doesn't lose his cool all that often, but when he does lose it, he loses it pretty good. And you know, that there are situations that are for effect. That is not one of them. And I think that Ned really has a unique relationship with his players. You know, the managers tend to get categorized as a player's manager or as a management type guy, but you know, Ned clearly, I think, understands, and one of the great things about his time with Bobby Cox had been a general manager, had been a field manager for a number of years, had a much more rounded knowledge of the game than perhaps most field managers do. And as a result, and from spending time with Bobby, I think Ned understands the bigger picture a lot of times. When we go to spring training, Ned spends time in the minor league camp. Not a lot of major league managers do that. Ned spends a lot of time with the scouts. Same thing. A lot of it doesn't happen there. So I think it really speaks to Ned's understanding of the entire game.
All right, we'll step aside and let's see if Ned's club, without him as the leader, can get something. Tyler Johnson comes on out of the bullpen, the young left-hander, with left-handed batters against him this year. 0 for 17 when he comes to work for the 15th time this year. Well, guess what? He's got a challenge. Prince Fielder hits .292 against lefties, .297 against righties. What could you tell us about Tyler Johnson?
Not a whole lot, to be honest with you. He's a relative newcomer to the big leagues. We don't have a real good track record on him. He's been effective, as you say, against left-handers. He's been a Cardinal farmhand for a number of years now, and he really fits into the way that Tony La Russa likes to manage. He likes to have a well-balanced bullpen. He likes to have a mix of right and left-handers. He loves the left-on matchup, despite the fact that Fielder is a pretty consistent hitter both ways. If you think back over the last few years of the number of left-handed pitchers that Tony La Russa has used and employed, and even marginal ones, he uses them and makes them appear in situations that enhances their value. And Tyler Johnson fits into that mold very, very well.
Pitches outside, 2-1 the count. And as Gord answered that question, you can see there within lies the challenge. In a day and age in which hitters just have to see video, they have to read scouting reports. You get a pitcher like Johnson come in, and just like that, you've got to learn him right here in this clutch situation. By the way, that 0 for 17 against lefties, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts. As Fielder lifts it foul, 2-2.
You know, we as a club have only had 2 at-bats against him this year. Jenkins and Lee getting an at-bat on Friday night against them, and it's the only time they've seen him. And we have some limited video from his appearances earlier that players could look at and get some idea. But you know, video is a tool to a certain level. You do have to have that in-game experience.
And in this game, Fielder works the count to 3-2.
Well, Fielder's got pretty good plate discipline. He's not one to chase all that often, and you know, usually in these kind of matchups, unless it's an overpowering left-hander against, you're getting the hitter to chase, and so far he's resisted that temptation.
The 3-2 pitch, breaking ball hangs in there, but is it playable? Scott Rowland runs out of room about 5 rows back, fortunately for Prince.
You see there, and it really is a non-play, but just how Scott Rowland went after that pop-up, as opposed to what Prince did earlier in the game, how calmly he approached the stands and was able to position himself to catch the ball had it been within reach, where in Prince's case he went after the ball in a little more disjointed fashion. That's just experience and something that Prince will be able to do in time.
He chased. That's exactly what you're talking about.
He did. Very unusual for Prince, but he did chase.
And that's exactly what Johnson wants to do, isn't it?
Well, absolutely, and he mixed his pitches well there. He did a nice job, and Tony's put him in a role to succeed, and he delivered on what he needed to do, and that's what's made the Cardinals successful, and what has been a hallmark of Tony's reign as manager is how he really works these matchups. And you know, we all joke about how long the Cardinal games are because of the number of pitching changes they make, but it's part of what makes them successful.
Nah, we never joke about that up here, do we? Here's Corey Koski. Yeah, what are we at? About the 2 hour. You know, we know as you, and we're honored, by the way, that you have chosen to sit with us and do this today, but we wanted to let you get a good long feel, you know?
I saw a long game Friday night, a long game last night. I thought we were due for a shorty today.
Not unless you just acquired Mark Burley.
And I'll tell you, you know,
which I'd be excited about.
Oh yeah, that would be good. But I can't talk about that. It would be tampering.
Oh, here we go. I thought that hat was up there. My goodness.
But we can't have an inning without a run, so we'll need some production here.
Yeah, the Brewers managed to throw 0 up in the 5th against the Cardinals. Koski right in on the knuckles, and he fights it off, and he singles into right center field. I mean, in on the hands. You've got to be strong to get that ball out there.
You sure do, and he just fisted that ball, as you say, out to center field. And Carlos Lee had thoughts of going to third base, and then all of a sudden he thought twice about it and had to put the brakes on. But you know, Corey's a strong hitter, and he's able to use his strength. Even though he didn't get the ball in the good part of the bat, he was able to at least get enough on the ball to get it out into center field. And you know, situation here with 3 left-hand hitters coming up. A great opportunity for Tony to make the move, and 1-1 so far. We'll see what Gabe can do.
Keep an eye, by the way, on Carlos Lee, who in situations when he can exploit a pitcher, even though he's got a left-handed hitter up there, he will. And something that Yadier Molina saw has him wanting to come out and shake those signs up.
Well, I think that's exactly what he's telling Johnson in this situation, is don't take Carlos Lee for granted. He's not a known base stealer, but he's a very, very smart base runner. David Eckstein probably also part of that conversation, and you have to be aware of him. You just can't ignore Carlos Lee, because obviously in a situation with 1 out and a man on third, the advantage goes to the Brewers.
That was a great shot right there. You could see Eckstein pass by and basically said something to the liking of, I warned him about you. And Carlos gave him a look as if he had been discovered. Gave him a look as if to say, what? Who, me? As if his mom caught him with his hand in the cookie jar. 0-2 the count. They took all the fun out of it, didn't they, Carlos? That's David Eckstein, though, in a nutshell. You can't really slide one by him.
Gabe's not had all that many at-bats against left-handed pitching this year, so this is a unique circumstance for him as well.
See if you can trick him, big boy. One and 2 the count. As you mentioned, a tough at bat against left-handed pitching, because it will not be very often where he is called upon to pinch hit against a left-handed pitcher.
No, he's he's only faced left-handers 7 times this year. Only faced left-handers 11 times last year. So he's not seen all that many, as I said. But the key here is not to try and do too much. Take what he gives you. Drive the ball to left field. Don't try and pull.
And just a tough assignment. Let's see what Chad Moeller can come up with. Walk, strikeout, single, and walk.
Well, you could see the indecision in Gabe's swing right there. He wasn't certain what he wanted to do. He wanted to hold back. He wanted to swing. So he got caught in between. And when you get caught in between, not much good's going to happen out of that.
Well, all right. I mean, it had been at least 5 or 6 minutes since we had a pitching change, so why not have another one? It's get to know the Cardinals bullpen day here on FSN North. Who's up next? We'll get to know him right after this. Let's have a little fun. Which one is Ned Yost? Which one is Moose Haas? From the celebrations of 1982. Tick tock, tick tock. There you go. Ned watching at his office right now. Moose watching in his suite as he is being honored today. That is a nice discovery by the gentleman in the tape room.
Very, very nice. And I think next year being the 25th anniversary of the '82 team, everyone in the Brewer organization, including you, should grow those same kind of mustaches.
That's not going to happen. Here's Chad Moeller. Not going to happen. Are you going to? You won't?
No, I won't, because I've tried before and it just doesn't work.
It doesn't work well with that hat that you wear. That general manager's hat that doesn't allow you to tamper. The right-hander, Hancock, good looking slider, strike one. I would imagine one of the important pitches right there in his repertoire.
It is. Hancock's done a great job for the Cardinals. He's kind of been their guy to stop situations like this. A good off-season pickup for them. Has filled a very, very valuable role. He's a guy that can be sneaky fast in the low 90s, but relies a lot on a slurvy type breaking ball, especially to right-hand hitters.
This crowd tries to get into it. Milwaukee, as Gordon was talking about earlier, has scored in every single chance at bat. A run in the first, second, and third. And then 2 runs in the fourth. By the way, stay with us. We'll go down into the dugout. Gordon and I will each have a question for pitching coach Mike Maddox with regard to this game.
You'll probably see another breaking ball here.
So we'll keep an eye on that on 0-2. Be ready to block it if you're Molina. Another going high. Boy, Chad right on it. You know what Chad's saying? You can't sneak that one by me. I pretty much designed calling that pitch. We see Chad Muller. He loves to call that pitch, that high fastball.
If you're going to go up in the zone, you better make sure that you go all the way up, though, and not leave it in the upper part of the strike zone where somebody can drive the ball.
And Chad, if he makes contact, that was right at the letters. He's doing something with that pitch. Got to think they're going back to that breaking ball on 0-2. Right on it, line to third. Oh, boy. A fastball on the inner half. And Scott Rowland didn't even blink as the Gold Glover puts that one away. 6 times he's won a Gold Glove. That's the reason why. Well, a 7-5 game. The Brewers down by a pair, far from done. Let's go down into the dugout. Talk with Brewers pitching coach Mike Mannix. First question about the struggles experienced by Dave Bush today.
Well, I think we found the middle of the plate a little too often, and you know, they got some swings at him there. Nobody really expanded the zone to help him out. They were very disciplined in what they did, and you know, we did the same thing on our end. You know, it looks like a offensive day.
We saw Jose Capian walking behind you a moment ago. He's a guy that has certainly proven to be very durable, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's a workhorse down there. He can pitch multiple innings. He comes in. He's got good enough stuff to blow you through 1 inning. Good enough command to get you multiple innings.
All right, thank you, Mad Dog.
You bet.
Well, that's a very unique thing that we bring each day and night in our telecast, and I have the opportunity in person to thank one of the members of the baseball operations staff that has allowed us to do that. And Gord, I don't know, as you're working throughout the evening during a game, if you get a chance to hear it, whether you're in an office or in a seat or in a suite, but we appreciate you allowing your coaches to come join us, if even for a brief moment.
I think it's been a good addition to the broadcast, and it gives the fans some insight as to what the coaches might be thinking during the course of the game.
And for them, it's you know, it's certainly a break in their mindset. They're very focused on the game, but you're right, you get right inside their heads and you get those fresh thoughts that are down in that dugout. Davey Nelson's very good at working with us. He's worn a microphone during games on a couple of occasions. Dale Swain, as my partner Bill Schroeder says, once we get that hook down there and bring you over, you're fine. 0-2 the count. And Waymo out in the bullpen. It's always a treat to figure out what's going on out in the bullpen with Billy Castro.
Well, baseball is such a game of tradition and such a game of routine, and if you change the routine, it's sometimes a little difficult for everyone to accept, but they get there eventually.
Jose Capian with the play. Let's find Craig Kishon. Craig, are you still with Tommy Lasorda?
No, actually, we had some nice conversation afterwards, but they are enjoying the rest of the ball game now. But hey, guys, I want to tell Gord, especially at this point, these couple of things are for him. I was talking to Danny Kolb a couple of moments ago, and he said earlier today he was down in the clubhouse, caught a little bit of your action earlier. He said, hey, Gord's doing a real good job. So just so you know, mid-game report, midterm report, however you want to call it, you get a passing grade from the ball players down here.
Nice.
Also want to update you on Rick Helling. He pitched yesterday for AAA, 5 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs. I know, Gord, the plan was to give him another start next Thursday. What do you read into those numbers, and what are you getting from the progress report from Rick Helling?
Well, he threw very well for 3 innings and ran into a rough inning where he had some control issues and hit a batter and had a couple of walks and had a misplay behind him. So that really drove up his pitch count and gave up the 4 runs in that inning. But he's going to stay in Nashville. He's going to pitch again on Thursday. The plus is he was able to go 74 pitches and was able to come back after that bad inning and throw 1 more inning. So he'll go again on Thursday. The plan right now is both Doug and I will be there. We'll see him pitch, and then we'll make some kind of decision then on whether he needs another one or he's able to come back here and help us.
Scott Rowland, shallow center field. The Brewers looking to get some momentum. According to Dan Kolb, the Brewers have plenty of momentum up here in the booth. Passing grade from my partner. Look at Jose Capian. Gets an at bat here. looking to eat some innings. That's the statement being made by the Brewers coaching staff right now.
Well, his role has shifted a little bit with the injuries we've had, and clearly beginning of the season he was more of a setup guy, and now he's had to move more into a middle role and eat up some of these valuable innings. But it's an important job with the offense that we have and our penchant for coming back this year. If you can hold them 2 or 3 runs in the middle innings, you give your club a chance to win the ball game. So Jose's met that challenge. He's thrown very, very well this year, and not so well with the bat, though.
No, not so well that time with the bat. You surprised at all? I mean, obviously the goal here, as you mentioned, is to keep it close, but you've already used Brady Clark. You have Jeff Cirillo, Corey Hart. Surprised you at all that that was not employed, or do you see the logic in extending the right-handed pitcher right there?
I do, because you want to you're coming into the heart of the order with Edmonds and Encarnacion next inning. You want to get some important outs there. Even though it is the 6th inning, it's still early in the ball game for our club in the way that we battled in the late innings. So I see no problem with that move.
Ricky Weeks, let's see if he can get something going offensively. 0-1 the count on Ricky Weeks. We saw a shot a moment ago of Chris Capuano. If you ever found your bench depleted, you could in fact look to a guy like Capuano to pinch hit or drop down a bunt. Ned Yost has said as much of late, and today's starting pitcher Dave Bush, the other guy on that list.
St. Louis has done that very effectively through the years, and I know Jason Marquis swings the bat pretty well, runs the bases extremely well, and it's like having another bench player.
And of course right there, that shot is Capuano. 1-1. Dives down out of the zone. 2-1 the count.
Makes it tough on the nicknames.
I know.
Cappy.
It really does.
Who's Cappy? Which one?
See the stuff I have to deal with. I mean, you think it's a tough job to rebuild a major league franchise that is mired in a losing tradition. I have to come up with nicknames for guys that both start with Cappy. I'm going to say my job's a little tougher than yours. The 2-1. Rolled out to short as the entire state laughs, and in time for the out. What do you think so far up here? It's an easy game when you're sitting in this seat, isn't it?
Well, actually, to be honest with you, I think it's a little easier to be sitting in the suite with the guys watching the game. This is a little more work than I had anticipated.
Are they, speaking of workers, there's the blue-collar David Eckstein. Now, do you think that they're watching closely and getting ready with some critique for you?
Not only are they watching closely, they are probably taping and having it ready to play back all of the miscues and my inability to put a few words together once in a while. So I'm sure I'll hear all about that in the coming weeks.
Well, you just bring them on over to me. I got your back. 0-1 the count to Bill Hall, although I'm going on the road, though. That's the only problem. We are going to have you do a read as well, so we'll see if the guys are ready for that. I mean, there's no sense in babying you anymore. You're a salty veteran already. 0-1 the count on Bill Hall. Pulls that one foul. Now we don't want to sell short the fact that you and I obviously have done a couple of games over the last few springs together, audio on the internet, but you prior to that had broadcast experience. Why don't you tell the folks about your in Toronto broadcast experience?
Well, we did a few radio games with Tom Cheek and Jerry Howarth from time to time over the years, and we had a general manager segment on the TV broadcast there every Wednesday. I would spend an inning or two with Dan Shulman and Buck Martinez on the Blue Jay broadcast. So I did have some limited experience, but not a 9-inning variety like this.
Doing a great job. Tom Cheek, of course, a very good friend of both of ours, the late Tom Cheek. Brewers looking for some offense and needing it soon. Our Toyota game summary, you can see a lot of offense in this game, although the last 2 innings have been quiet. 7-5. Weeks, Hall, and Fielder have all homered. Edmonds having a big day, and that is our Toyota game summary. Mr. Ash, the floor is yours.
Well, join us on Friday, June 16th, as the Brewers battle the Indians. The first 10,000 fans 18 and older will receive a Brewers fleece blanket, courtesy of American Family Insurance. Call 414-902-4000 or visit MilwaukeeBrewers.com for tickets.
How about that? Shania Twain and supporting you along the way. Rolled out towards short. As a couple of Canadians took the floor there in time for the out. Where's she from, Gord?
Shania is from Timmins, Ontario, which is about 300 miles straight north from Toronto in mining country in northern Ontario.
I'm just going to unplug here, folks. I think you folks are good with Mr. Raff. Got the reads down pat. Let me tell you something.
Yes.
You executives up there. No, I'm speaking to those that could have my head lopped off at any moment. But you leave my guy alone, or you'll have to deal with me and my huge head and big mouth.
Well, I thought that was why I got the gig today, because I could qualify for the bucket head.
0-2 the count. Capion with a wicked slider there. What's your hat size? We'll make that decision.
7 3/4.
Oh, you're in. You're in. You're actually vice president. Of course, the presidents, we have dual presidents in the Buckethead Brigade, Kevin Mensch and Bruce Bochy.
8 1/4?
Yeah, it's, if not bigger. As the pitch misses wide, and Mr. Bonds has applied for membership, and we're still waiting. We're still working through the application. Rolled out towards short. Billy, throw him out, because that will take some momentum toward that Brewers dugout with 2 outs now. And a nice job.
When you have a strong arm like Billy does, you can do that. You can back up on a ball and get your proper hop and still take your time, get set, and make a good throw over to first base.
That's a good feeling there.
And a little reward for leaving Capion in the ball game to hit.
No, you're right. You're certainly right. Although, as you said, and you listen to us enough, whether we're on the road, this is a talking game, certainly, and it's a game that almost each and every move you at least want to discuss, because you know folks at home are. All right, folks, there you go. A 1-2-3 inning. Come on, Mr. Momentum. Grab a seat in the Brewers dugout, because the boys, they need some runs. This copyright telecast is presented by authority of the Milwaukee Brewers Baseball Club. Now, it may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. The accounts and descriptions of this game, they may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Milwaukee Brewers Baseball Club. Craig Cashon, Gord Ash, Darren Sutton as they stand up and stretch him out here at Miller Park. If you're just joining us, we are sans Bill Schroeder today for a very, very important and justifiable reason, as he spends the afternoon with his family and loved ones and his son Billy, who is graduating today from Muskego High School. Randy Flores, left-hander, going to work for the St. Louis Cardinals out of USC, and your thoughts on Mr. Flores?
Well, Mr. Flores will, I think, give the left-handed hitters here, certainly Jeff Jenkins as the leadoff hitter, a steady diet of breaking balls. Jeff, of course, we know has struggled lately with left-handed pitching. But the same thing as we talked about earlier, Tony follows a script, and he follows it very routinely. Everyone knows their role, and I think the combination of the pitchers knowing their role, and some of the hitters struggling against these matchups, makes it a pretty easy decision for Tony La Russa to make.
Specio's at first. Sorry about that.
Sorry. Same thing applies, though, in Jeff's case here, as we talked about in the last inning, is that you have to take what they give you. Don't try and pull the ball into right field. I assume he's going to pitch him away, down and away, and just take the ball to left field. And when Jeff starts going to left field, that's when he starts, and you know he's on the verge of another hot streak.
If you want to take it to a second step, Ned Yost no longer managing the game because of Jeff Jenkins. He came out in defense of his right fielder. Jenkins arguing a called strike 3 from Marvin Hudson back in the 4th inning. And he takes over the inside corner. 1 ball and 1 strike the count. Couple of strikeouts and a flyout. Jeff coming into today with 70 strikeouts on the season, the most in the National League, one more than Adam Dunn. And the count is 1-2.
And you can see the last two pitches have both been inside, and that's the area that Jeff's been having the most difficulty with. It was the pitch that he was called out on a third strike earlier in the game. And even if you can foul those pitches off, you're going to show the opposition that they can exploit that area.
Boy, you could see Yadier Molina holding that catcher's mitt away, saying, get it in that other's batter's box. And here's hoping they'll chase. Watch Molina. Look at that. Couple of USC Trojans matching up, and Jenkins fouls it off.
And right back inside again. So interesting cat and mouse game here on the pitch selection. Will he go back outside again now? Count even, come back inside where he's been susceptible. And what you like about Molina behind the plate is he doesn't give it away too early. He'll reach out with his glove and give location, but he won't shift his body until the pitch is on its way.
Just then in, and again Jeff fouls it off his leg. He is beating and battering himself with those inside pitches.
But as long as he can continue to foul those pitches off, they're going to lay off that area because they know they can't get it by him there.
Jenkins this year hitting .295 against right-handed pitching, just .133 against southpaws. And he has not enjoyed his USC fellow alum, Randy Flores. Though he's gotten him once, he's in his book. Oh, they came back in there again.
Yeah, this has been a better at-bat for Jeff. He's really battling here.
Boy, again, you could see Molina very animated that time with that catcher's mitt, almost like a pancake on the ground, saying, throw me another breaking ball, get it down, though.
And it's not like Jeff has never hit left-handed pitching. He did reasonably well against left-handers last year. He had .255 against left-handers, so he has that capability. He's just right now struggling and probably thinking too much. Again, very important to foul that ball off. And you know, they're that old baseball cliche, the more you foul off, the better chance you're going to have to get a base hit, and perhaps that's the case here.
Pitch number 10 about to come home. Jeff Jenkins working and grinding, trying to get through it. Got him. Fastball in. They continued to stay stubborn. Credit to Jenkins for the at-bat, but credit to Flores for not evacuating the game plan.
The Cardinals did a great job there moving the ball in and out. They didn't work to a pattern. And when you're a hitter, especially a hitter mired in a slump, you're looking for that pattern, and you didn't get it there. And Jeff hung tough most of the way, but felt susceptible on that last pitch.
Took him 10 pitches to get Jeff Jenkins. You could tell, as Gord is mentioning, that he was looking for a breaking ball there. Carlos Lee having a bit of a conversation with Marvin Hudson, but trying to keep it a little bit lighter than his skipper did. The count 0-1. Down off the end of the bat. Who's going to this baseball? How about Jimmy Edmonds? And how about the second out? Here's British. He homered back in the second inning, walked in the third, and struck out in the fifth inning. Jose Capion, a story certainly for the Brewers if in fact Milwaukee is able to rally. After Busch went 4 and allowed 7 runs, Capion out of that bullpen 3 shutout innings, and he pitched to contact. He didn't walk anyone and he didn't strike anyone out.
The second part of this game has been a much different story than the first part of this game in terms of how the pitchers have begun to dominate the hitters now.
And what Gord is talking about, you went from the first through the fourth inning, every time up for either team resulted in runs. For the Cardinals, 2, 1, 1, 3. For the Brewers, 1, 1, 1, 2. But then zeros in the fifth, sixth, and now nearly a zero in the seventh. As that is low and inside, 2-2 the count.
You know, I don't think the conditions have played any factor in that. It's been a consistently overcast day. There are no shadows today. It's players do talk about it being tough to see in Miller Park for day games, but I don't think that's the case today.
Out to left field, so Taguchi. Here's hoping at some point in the game the results will actually reflect the efforts of this organization. 7-5. 7-5, St. Louis leading Milwaukee. It is the top of the eighth inning. Dan Kolb now is called upon, and again, major kudos as Danny works for the 21st time this year. Major kudos to Jose Capion, who goes 3 scoreless. Keeps the team right in this game, and a big part of this ball game. Capion, I mean, you want to talk about effective in 3 scoreless innings. How about 26 pitches? 26 pitches, 20 of them for strikes.
He did a great job. Exactly what you want and what you need in that situation.
And getting right after it is Dan Kolb. As Yadier Molina grounds out.
Koski's such a professional player. Approaches his defense in a very diligent manner. Works hard, takes a lot of ground balls, very accurate with his throwing. When Doug Melvin acquired him this winter, that was one of the big factors that we wanted him, was not only for his experience and his part of a championship club in the past, but a great fielder, and has become a very popular teammate as well.
Luna rolls that one foul when acquiring a player, when signing a player. And we've touched on this a little bit earlier. You see what you have seen with the naked eye. You do a ton of research with your stats, but the person that the player is, how much does that matter?
Well, you can't ever walk away from talent, but I can tell you this, that assuming that all major leaguers have talent, which they do, character is a very big part of the decision process that Doug and Ned and others put into the process to acquire a player. And Corey has that reputation. Others that we have acquired over time do as well. As I say, you're never gonna walk away from pure talent, but if you're a quality player and a quality individual, that's a much better equation for the Milwaukee Brewers and what we're trying to accomplish here.
I think in that answer, fans loved everything they heard. As a Brewers fan myself, that there is always an eye on talent first and foremost. But if all things are equal, you would certainly look at the type of person.
And I think it's very important for the staff to set that tone. Ned and his coaching staff, very hard workers, very supportive and involved in the community events that we ask our players to be part of. So it's a total team approach.
With more on Corey Koski, the guy that's fitting in nicely, let's kick it on down to Craig, who is by the dugout. Craig?
You know, it wasn't until fairly recently that Ned Yost said, you know, that Koski really has been so quiet even around the coaches and himself, but it has been pretty recently that he has helped out the young players. In fact, he's been helping the young players for most of the season, and you know, the other day he was saying he got some good advice when he was a young player coming up with Minnesota from Terry Steinbach, and Terry told him, hey, you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as they say. I know we've heard that before, but he said that's as basic as it comes, and that's as basic as you have to be with some of these young guys. And he's taking these guys out to lunch on the road a lot, the Ricky Weeks and the Prince Fielders, and Corey Hart's taking a liking to him, as well as Jeff Cirillo. So these veteran guys, Gordon, you're absolutely right. They're really helping out the young guys.
And coaches can say what coaches can say, and managers and general managers can say what they can say, but to a player, what probably carries a whole lot more validity and a lot more weight is what player says to player. It's just the way it works.
How about this bullpen? Unbelievable. for Milwaukee. 4 scoreless innings. Boys, you've got to get the offense going. Well, it's the bottom of the 8th inning. Brewers looking to get something going. We'll see what this inning provides. Brewers fans, on June 17th, the first 15,000 adults 17 and older receive a Chevy Brewers keychain, compliments of Chevrolet, and your local Chevy dealers. Chevy is a proud sponsor of the Milwaukee Brewers. Well, Flores, the lefty, still out there. Corey Koski, left-handed hitter. Gabe Gross, left-handed hitter. And Chad Moeller. It'll be interesting to see if Corey Hart gets an opportunity to hit and force Tony La Russa's hand for Gabe Gross, who waits on deck.
Corey's been very, very even in his approach to right and left-handers this year. He was a little susceptible to left-hand pitching last year.
Gross takes a look back and realizes that they're going to make a move, and it is Hart. Well, right on it, Gordash. We were talking about it during the break, and you were thinking that this is the move that we would see.
But Corey, through his minor league career and so far in his big league career, has been very, very tough on left-handed pitching. And always has, you know, there are players, you can scout players and you can grade out players, but there are players that just rise to the occasion, and Corey Hart's been one of those kind of guys. You look at his track record in the minor leagues for run production, he is always amongst the league leaders.
He's got a big opportunity here as the predicted move follows from the St. Louis Cardinals. Right-hander coming out of the bullpen to face right-handed hitting Corey Hart. We'll reset the scene for you right after this. Night he finished it. Let's see if he can start it. Corey Hart last night in the 8th inning against Braden Looper. A pinch hit RBI single that was the difference for the game. Set up an opportunity for Derek Turnbow to come on and put this game to bed. Hard throwing sinker baller Braden Looper. And he faces a guy now with equally, if not better stuff, Gord. What can you tell us about Wainwright?
Well, Wainwright's been a top prospect for a number of years. He's finally come into his own this year. He's made a dramatic shift on where he stands on the rubber. I saw this pitcher pitch a year ago in AAA. I saw him in the Arizona Fall League a couple of years ago, and you can see he's on the extreme right side of the pitching rubber, and that's something new for him. It must be able to give him more movement. His velocity is up from where it was. Something that he's found that's worked for him, I'm sure, in conjunction with pitching coach Dave Duncan. But he'll use the fastball. That's his dominant pitch. It's an above-average fastball, but he also has 4 pitches. He can throw a slider. He does throw a pretty good curveball and does have a changeup.
High and outside, but on the corner. 2-1 the count. Wainwright tagged by the Brewers for a run last night, where he hit Ricky Weeks with a pitch, and it certainly threw him off his game. In a third of an inning, allowed a hit, a run, and hit Ricky Weeks, who came around to score. Oh, that is nasty. A heavy slider. 2-2. Oh boy, that's a tough pitch for any hitter, let alone a young hitter. St. Louis leads it by a pair. Wainwright.
My guess is he'll go back to that.
Yeah, he certainly did. Had him way out front. Well, he went right back to it. That one even a little higher, up closer to the strike zone. Matty Wise, Derek Turnbow. The Brewers pull a rabbit out of their hat here in the next couple of hitters. Grab the lead. Bo comes in. Here's what that breaking ball did.
Yeah, he was way out in front. You're right on that. But that's the kind of pitcher when you sit on the bench. That's tough. That's tough right there, especially as a young hitter.
Well, that's why there's a good paycheck to be made in the big leagues for veterans who can pinch hit on a regular basis. Good looking play. Scott Spezio leading up over that camera well. The Brewers go down with a harmless 1-2-3 inning. But the Brewers certainly within a striking distance in this game. Our Menards reset. They're down by a pair. Big day for Jim Edmonds, but the story really beyond the big day for Edmonds and the homers. The Brewers bullpen outstanding, Gordash.
Well, it sure has. Capion gave us 3 great middle innings. I think Danny Cove, the last inning, threw about as well as I've seen him throw this year. Very dominant stuff. Great slider there.
Ooh.
His velocity's been back. He's been able to control the strike zone. And we've certainly have taxed the bullpen this year when we've asked them to pitch in roles they've not been comfortable or used to pitching in, but this is a good sign and a good building block for the week ahead.
Corey Hart takes over in center field. Got those sunglasses just in case he needs them. And David Eckstein to lead things off.
But it's not night yet.
That's true. How many times do you think he has had and heard those references?
I even got the Sports Center reference today.
Oh, he did he? So they're referencing him all over the place. David Eckstein on the ground. Ricky Weeks got him. That is his workout partner in the wintertime. Weeks and Eckstein, along with David's brother, who is a coach in the big leagues. They all work out together, but certainly an unlikely duo to find together, Eckstein and Weeks. But I would imagine you like the fact that in his free time, Ricky Weeks is working out with a guy like David.
Well, absolutely great work ethic, and I think Felipe Lopez is also from the Cincinnati Reds part of that group as well, and it's certainly been a great influence on Felipe and the way he's turned his career around. So that's a great threesome, and the way that they approach the game, very similar in style. They make the most of their talent. Probably Ricky and Felipe more natural talent than David, but David has obviously been a great influence on them.
So where were you, as far as where were you seated, and what was your reaction when Joe Carter walked him off to win the Blue Jays the World Series?
Well, it was a very exciting time, and when you're in the World Series, as special as it is, sometimes it's such a whirl you don't really get to enjoy. And I was seated right behind home plate for that, and the way that Skydome is configured, it's tough to see right down the left field line, and it was almost surreal. As Joe hit the ball, you weren't sure if it was going to stay fair, and as the crowd that had the best vantage point of the foul line started to rise to its feet and applaud, and it just kind of carried around to the left side of the ballpark that couldn't see the ball, and pandemonium broke out from there. It was a great feeling.
Winning that 1993 World Series, back-to-back World Series titles for the Toronto Blue Jays. And a club that has certainly proven that they are willing, as that one is rolled out to Billy. There we go, a nice dig by Prince. They have proven that they are aggressively going after the top spot in the East. Again, it's going to be difficult, but certainly a much improved franchise of late.
Much improved, certainly both on and off the field. Their financial picture is in order, and there's some stability now in ownership, and they are a good ball club, no question about it. They have a chance to win. That's a very difficult division with the Yankees and the Red Sox, and the amount of resources that they put into their clubs. So the Blue Jays have done what they felt they needed to do to compete, and so far they've been able to hang in, even minus some of their better players because of injuries. So it'll be something that'll be interesting to watch. And you know, the Blue Jays are in a unique situation that they not only represent their city and their province, but it is a national team. The games are nationally broadcast, and they have a lot of exposure across the country, and it's really viewed that way.
It's a great point. A lot of people, I don't think, realize truly one nation's team existing in Toronto. All right, Jason Isringhausen coming on. How about a little bit of magic? I like Joe Carter pulled off. Bottom half of the ninth inning, wherever you may be around this great land in the state of Wisconsin, put your rally caps on. Let's make it a 500 homestand after that very disappointing and forgettable 8-game losing streak. Milwaukee took 3 of 4 from San Diego, and with a rally, can take 2 of 3 from the St. Louis Cardinals. One problem, they got to get through Jason Isringhausen, who saved things in game 1 of the series with an inning and a third scoreless. Although he's not been perfect this year. As a matter of fact, Tony La Russa gave him about a 3 or 4 day hiatus score to clear his head. The right-hander out of Brighton, Illinois. Pitched collegiately at Lewis and Clark Community College in Illinois. And Jeff Cirillo called upon to pinch hit, 1 for 5 in this series.
Jeff's done a great job as a pinch hitter, and Isringhausen, as you mentioned, has has not been as consistent lately and relies very heavily on his fastball and his fastball command and his cutter, and if he doesn't have that working for him, he can be had.
First pitch swinging, Cirillo into right field. Juan Encarnacion, 1 out. All right, Ricky Weeks. Get a base runner on here for Bill Hall. Brewers dropped a run on Isringhausen back on the 13th of April. Milwaukee defeating and handing Isringhausen the loss. And Carlos Lee homered against Jason.
You would like to get somebody on here because Jeff Jenkins does hit Isringhausen historically pretty well.
And maybe for Jeff, that'll be just the elixir that the doctor ordered. Major League Baseball's all-time leader in saves, also the Cardinals leader in saves. Is he chasing him and getting close? 1-1. Early in his career with the Mets, he certainly was considered a top prospect as a starter. And then the A's have been given credit for putting this man in the bullpen. Good move. Who was it? Paul Wilson, Jason Isringhausen.
I was just thinking that. I can't remember the third one. There was 3 of them. Bill Pulsipher. That's who it is, Bill Pulsipher.
Bill Pulsipher, and there was one other distant pitcher out of St. Francis College in New York. NAIA, 95-mile-an-hour thrower who was in that group as well. He wasn't considered part of the big 3, but part of that high draft pick. Quartet of pitchers.
And that's a very interesting snapshot for the delicate nature of developing pitchers.
You said it.
I mean, they've all gotten to the big leagues, but they've had various routes to success.
Don Peters was the other one.
Very good.
The 3-1. 3-2. We lit him up in the NAIA World Series. That's why I remember. We let him hear about it, although he had the last laugh on draft day. St. Francis in New York, Don Peters. 7-5, the Cardinals lead it. Stay with us for Brewers Live immediately following the game. Let's hope. We're reporting on Bedlam from the field. Although it might take a miracle at this point, still you have Billy, and if Billy can get on. Jeff Jenkins with, as Gord mentioned, some good history against Jason Isringhausen. Billy in this ball game, homer, triple, and a couple of strikeouts in that sandwich.
Isringhausen has great command today, able to put the pitch where he wants to. His fastball can be straight at times, as we saw on that pitch, but just enough velocity to get in on hitters.
The 0-1. Oh, there's that breaking ball. That's a dandy. Wow.
And what makes it so devastating is it's not just for effect. You can throw it for a strike, and hitters have to be so aware that that is part of his repertoire.
(7-5). The Cardinals lead the Brewers. Billy spoils a good fastball that is low. so Taguchi ends the game, and the Cardinals win this series 2-1. They defeat the Brewers this afternoon by a pair, 7-5, in a very unique game. Our Dell player of the game is Jim Edmonds. It was the story of 2 games, a boatload of offense in the first part of the game, and then great relief pitching from both teams. So the final 7-5. Hancock the winner, Bush the loser, Izzy with his 20th save. With 4 home runs in today's game, a total of $68,000 has been raised in our game for prostate cancer research. Our thanks to Michael Milken and Tommy Lasorda for joining us on behalf of that group this afternoon. Call 1-800-798-CURE to make a donation. Craig will join us, and we will have our post-game coverage. Gord as well. Brewers Live right after this.